Hey, welcome back, everyone, to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 749, Space and Technology. I'm here with my co-host, Complex. Can you get me?
Yo, Mike, you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Hey, I'm gonna be muted up for just a second. I'm just finishing up dinner for my daughter. Give me a second, okay?
No problem.
All right.
Please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible, and hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust. All right, let's get started. Let's get to the first item on the docket. Share my screen real quick. All right, first item on the docket is from Cointelegraph. Congressman Hill to make sure U.S. is the place for blockchain innovation. The chair of the Financial Services Subcommittee on Digital Assets wants to make America the place for fintech and blockchain innovation. The chairman of the newly formed United States Congressional Subcommittee on Digital Assets has pledged to promote progressive crypto regulations to ensure that America is the place for innovation in fintech and blockchain. Speaking on CNBC's Squawk Box on January 26, U.S. Representative French Hill offered some of his first insights into what is anticipated for crypto regulations in the country. The Financial Services Subcommittee on Digital Assets, Financial Technology, and Inclusion, which is chaired by Hill, was put together on January 12th with the remit of identifying best practices and policies that continue to strengthen diversity and inclusion in the digital asset ecosystem. During the interview, Hill said that Bitcoin was not quite ready to be a real-time payment method yet, but added that, quote, we want to make sure that America is the place for innovation in fintech and blockchain is a part of that future. When asked about the possibility of a spot Bitcoin exchange traded fund, when asked about the possibility of a spot Bitcoin exchange traded fund, Hill commented that the new subcommittee also wants to explore this possibility. The Securities and Exchange Commission has repeatedly rejected applications for a spot Bitcoin ETF, including one by the world's largest crypto asset manager, Grayscale. Other areas of the subcommittee's focus will be related to federal privacy law, a stable coin bill, and the ramifications for the securities market, while working with the Senate on the commodity aspect of the crypto industry. He said crypto trading and exchanges would need to be overseen, but did not specify which agency would do so. Quote, all of that is on the table and all of that is going to be a priority this year, he said. The host implied that the SEC has been dragging his feet, inquiring, quote, as long as Gary Gensler is there, do you see any progress being made? Hill said that Gensler was the top cop on the beat last year, claiming to be an expert in this area, adding, so we'll invite him up to Congress to tell us what he knows, what he recommends in this area, and what he was doing last year when he had so many challenges for our investors and consumers. The SEC has been accused by crypto-friendly senators of regulating by enforcement and conducting extrajudicial sweeps on the crypto industry. So it is inevitable that the United States wants to be a major player in terms of digital ledger technology, Web3, and all these other emerging technologies of that makes fourth industrialization work as a premier innovation. But the thing here is, you're going to need some form of regulation, because what happens here is people investors don't want to invest into things that are uncertain. And unfortunately, you have 50 states in the United States that make up the United States, but there's no real, every state has different sort of data laws, how you deal with data, how you manage data, how you contain it, and data loss, right? If you lose someone's data, then you can be on the hook. Not every state has the same level of regulation. Every state is different. And so there needs to be some federal oversight to actually get a grasp as to how you're going to manage these new emerging technologies that consumers have to that consumers are going to have to engage. And so what I do see, from a financial services subcommittee, I also see a consumer oversight committee playing a significant role in this at some point as well. I think we're just at the beginning right now. The last administration wasn't looking at anything; they were pretty much out to lunch. But this administration, they seem to be getting it all together. All right, let's get to the next item on the docket. All right, next item on the docket is from NASA. Let me zoom this in. NASA awards millions to historically Black colleges and universities. NASA is awarding $11.7 million to 8 historically Black colleges and universities, HBCUs, through the new Data Science Equity, Access, and Priority in Research and Education DAP opportunity. These awards will enable HBCU students and faculty to conduct innovative data science research that contributes to NASA's missions. Quote, we're pleased to make progress through awards like this to intentionally build the STEM pipeline of the future, especially in communities of color, said NASA Deputy Administrator Pam Melroy. Quote, it's fitting during Black History Month that we make this tangible step to build on the talent pool at HBCUs in our ongoing work to bring to the table all the talented perspectives we'll need to send humans to the moon, Mars, and beyond, and do amazing science throughout the solar system. I'm not sure what's going on. Yeah, complex is kind of, I'm not sure what's going on.
Hey, all right. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right, I'm here, bro.
Kind of bumped me out there.
Okay, my bad. I'll switching devices.
All right. All right. Technology advancements in the field of data science, including the growth of artificial intelligence and machine learning, are poised to significantly impact the work of data scientists and analysts. The awarded projects have up to 3 years to establish institutes and partnerships to increase the number and research capacity of STEM students at HBCUs, accelerate innovation in a wide range of NASA science, technology, engineering, and mathematics research areas, and prepare the future workforce for data-intensive space-based earth sciences. Quote, the increasing use of data science at NASA and beyond really drives home the need for a future workforce with data science knowledge, said Mike Kincaid, Associate Administrator of NASA's Office of STEM Engagement, which manages MUREP. Quote, with our newest collaboration, NASA created an exciting pathway to find new talent at HBCUs. The agency's Minority University Research and Education Project, MUREP, and the Science Mission Directorate collaborated on the DAP opportunity and selected the following institutions in their proposed projects. Bethune-Cookman University, Daytona Beach, Florida. The project will establish a DAP institute focusing on machine learning-based development of a virtual constellation of satellites that will capture changing water levels from events such as storm flooding to multi-decadal timescales, such as sea level rise. NASA tracks sea level changes and its causes from space. Fayetteville State University in North Carolina, Institute for Multi-Agent Perception through Advanced Cyber Physical Technologies, IMPACT. Wow. The IMPACT project will build on existing capacity in collaboration with NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Silicon Valley, California, to engage students and faculty in using data science to address scientific questions as one of the key factors to manage NASA's Earth mission research. Florida A&M University, Tallahassee, Florida. Effects of gravity on creeping salts and salt mixtures, developing image-based and AI-enhanced diagnostics for determining chemical compositions. This project will rely on artificial intelligence and machine learning to better understand the science of concentrated salt solutions and the formation of ring-like deposits called evaporites. Understanding the science of salt concentrations and formation of evaporites will bring new insight into identifying where water may have existed. Water is a critical source. NASA researchers and explorers to better understand other planets' surface geology and the potential future of lunar and Martian exploration. Lincoln University in Jefferson City, Missouri, using data science to understand soil, wildfire, and social disparity of climate change and air pollution. This project aims to provide data science, problem solving, skill development, and professional development of minority and underserved students. Students will utilize existing state-of-the-art machine learning methods to develop new data analytic approaches to solve some of the core problems in earth science research. Morgan State University, Baltimore, long-term high-resolution urban aerosol database for research, education, and outreach. Through innovative data analysis algorithms, including machine learning and artificial intelligence methods, this project will produce a high-resolution, open access, and user-friendly urban aerosol database focusing on the Baltimore, Washington area. The database will also be used in both classroom teaching and scientific outreach, accompanied by online tools and educational materials, bringing new, authentic earth science education to local schools and communities. North Carolina A&T University, Greensboro, North Carolina, DAP Institute, harnessing data science for flood monitoring and management. 3 North Carolina based HBCUs will work together on this project developed to harness data science for flood monitoring and management. North Carolina Central University, Durham, North Carolina, capacity building to support machine learning based detection of floods and other natural hazard impacts in Department of Environmental, Earth, and Geospatial Sciences at North Carolina Central University. The project will create training, data science, data resources, and opportunities to use machine learning, artificial intelligence to identify and measure the impact of flood events and other natural hazards such as earthquakes, hurricanes, drought, wildfires, and more. And then you have Prairie View, A&M University in Prairie View, Texas. DAP Institute in Research and Education for Science Translation via Low Resource and Neural Machine Translation. This project aims to build an AI-based system that can share interactive, instantaneous, and user-relevant earth science information, making NASA science more discoverable and accessible to a broad audience. Quote, NASA is tackling how to use the latest techniques in data science combined with the volumes of data produced by our missions to answer questions about our changing planet, said Stephen Crawford, senior program executive for scientific data and computing. Quote, working with students from HBCUs will not only engage the generation that will be most affected by these subjects, but will help NASA scientists and engineers address these challenges. Administered by Austin, MUREP supports and invests in research, academic, and technology capabilities of minority-serving institutions. For more information about NASA's Office of STEM Engagement, visit stem@nasa.gov. This is really huge stuff.
So it sounds as if they're trying to create sort of like a bunch of mini MITs, right? That are going to kind of specialize in these key areas of AI function, right? And data science.
Not necessarily MIT.
No?
MIT is a little bit of a different institution in itself. They're kind of what NASA is trying to do is open up the lack of representation in the agency by creating that pipeline. Whereas MIT already has that pipeline kind of set up a different way.
Well, okay. No. Point taken, right?
Yeah.
But I'm saying like this is sort of like the beginnings of creating that pipeline, right? By focusing on these key areas and saying we're gonna appropriate funding so that we begin to build a pipeline of data science specialists, data scientists who have a specialty and then what it was that was outlined per university. That was very specific.
Yeah, it was. But the thing here is HBCUs don't get the representation that MIT, UC Berkeley, and these other places get, right? Because they don't have the same endowments. And so in order to compensate for the lack of endowment, you create pipeline programs like this.
Right.
And so what that allows is for the federal government to create an endowment too, by leveraging the power of the agencies and the capacity that the capacity that they have. And so now they don't need, like Harvard and MIT together both have, I think it's like $500 billion in endowment.
I was going to say that it's a stupid amount of money.
Yeah, it's like a quarter of $1 trillion in endowment. That's something that all the HBCUs combined can't compete with that, right? In fact, most universities on the planet can't compete with that. And so they typically have their own like MIT Lincoln Labs. This is exactly what MIT Lincoln Labs kind of does, but they go a little bit deeper. HBCUs typically did not have that access until recently. And so now, obviously for Black History Month, they're making this, this sort of pledge of $11 million. And I think it's money well spent. Even though $11 million doesn't sound like a lot, it's actually going to really good use. If I was in college, man, if I was in HBCU, man, this would be very beneficial. We had a stream last Monday for Space and Technology, where it kind of got off the rails at the end. But this is exactly what I was referring to, that you have to create an ecosystem, and you're not going to be able to do it without the help of the federal government. That's exactly what federal governments do.
I was going to say, dude, I don't know much in terms of large scale development, right? That happens without the Fed on some level.
Yeah, because government is a catalyst, and so they don't have the same. When you're creating these ecosystems, they need some form of investment into them, or else it's just not going to work. It's just a pie in the sky sort of ideal. And so I think this is good. I see Shonda in the chat makes a comment and says that NASA had that pipeline with HBCU since the 1960s. I do agree, and I understand that, but not to the extent that they're doing it today. If you look at the funding core for STEM research, they didn't have all of that. It pales in comparison to predominantly white institutions, PWIs. But your point is taken, though. But this is the sort of stuff that, if you look at the funding core for STEM research, they didn't have all of that. It pales in comparison to predominantly white institutions, PWIs. But your point is taken, though. But this is the sort of stuff that, if you look at the funding core for STEM research, they didn't have all of that. that I was talking about last week, that we have to create these sort of ecosystems by creating centers of excellence. And unfortunately, that discussion got kind of taken off the rails. But the major point here is that we have to start somewhere. If it's $11.7 million, that's, who am I to complain about that?
Well, I was going to ask you about a question about that, right? So, like you said, it doesn't sound like a lot, right? But it can go a long way. And so my question to you is it that goes more towards the actual software and computing power itself, right? Because it's really just computer and then knowledge, right? Brain power, and then the computational power, right? Having the systems that can run the AI programs per what it was that they were outlining. And that, computer systems and programs don't cost that much, right? In the grander scope, right? I mean, is this what we're looking at in terms of like where that money is being appropriated to, is just having the equipment and the software available to carry out these things?
Yeah, because you need data in order to in order to make any of this materialize. And so if you're giving them access to the data, you're actually creating, if you're giving them access to your academic structures, right? How do you actually process a lot of this, and how do you go about making any of this work? I think that plays a key role, because not everybody has access to that. You could theorize it in the classroom, but you can't actually make it viable, because you don't have access to the actual data. You have fictitious data, but you don't have the actual data, right? And so I think this actually is a good stepping stone, but it's exactly how I envision this working. Now,
that's how it has to. Yeah, that's how it has to. You gotta springboard it somehow.
Yeah, if you can get the K through 12 piece down correct too, the K to 12, and then
which is what we've been championing since when?
Since the inception of the channel. And so I think there is a there. So if you can make that investment into HBCUs, I think you need to make that same investment into the K through 12. And so
bingo.
That's where we are. Let me get to the next item on the docket. This is from DW. Africa boosts homegrown e-mobility in bid to curb emissions. Let me zoom in on this real quick. Motorcycles would swap batteries in buses with solar panels on their roofs. African innovators have been working on ideas that support the climate, the local population, and promote the Made in Africa brand. A few tricycles can bring massive change to a poor rural strip like Wedza in eastern Zimbabwe. The front wheel of the electric vehicle could have come from a motorcycle, while the back half features a cargo area. Locals use tricycles, dubbed Hamba, to transport goods and people. They've even served as mobile vaccination centers during the region's COVID-19 vaccination campaign.
No shit.
For Susan Chapaduka, a chicken, horticulture, and tobacco farmer, the Hamba is more than a symbol of progress. Quote, "We were using wheelbarrows or ox-drawn carts to go to the market. It was a laborious and expensive, especially for me. I did not own an ox-drawn cart, so I would have to hire the cart," she told DW. With the Hamba, Chapanduka's trip to the market is faster and cheaper than before. Now, she has enough left over to pay her children's school fees and fertilizer for her crops. Interesting. So many of you, many of you have heard us lament, about micromobility, e-scooters, e-bikes, and things like that. And some people in this space have said, oh, you guys are just talking about micro machines. Well, now we see the innovation coming from people in Africa. Africa is a explosive market right now for micromobility. Okay, it's an explosive market. But this is what happens when you're forced to, you don't have the resources that first world nations have, that you're forced to innovate by cobbling together different sort of components. You know, we covered an article a few weeks ago, about a month or so ago, with a young brother from Ghana who put together his own car. Did it look stupid and crappy? I mean, yeah. But the thing here is he had the willpower to actually do something because he had the ambition. And so this is what's going on the continent. And micromobility is an explosive market over there right now. The Honda,
I'll
yeah,
save my I was gonna say I'll save my thoughts after you
Mhm.
you finish the article.
Yeah, the Honda is assembled in Zimbabwe's capital, Harare, by the Social Enterprise Mobility for Africa. According to the firm's founders, Shanta Bloman, electric mobility plays a crucial role in fighting climate change. Quote, if you think about green and electric transport, which doesn't mean you have to import expensive, dirty petrol, you can actually transform rural areas and build really vibrant local economies, Bloman told DW. 3 years ago, Mobility for Africa launched its pilot phase in Wedza to prove to future investors that the concept is viable. Each of the 50 tricycles is shared by a small group of women like Susan Chapanduka. The leasing fee is around $15 per month, plus small fees for each battery charge. The Honda isn't an isolated case. Different types of electric mobility are gaining popularity in many parts of Africa, though that doesn't necessarily mean electric cars like those being rolled out in the global north, where only the wealthy can afford them. Economic factors are making electric mobility more attractive in Africa, explained Mara Cobrelli, an expert on African mobility with the Siemens Foundation in Germany. Quote, higher fuel prices as well as lower prices for batteries and solar photovoltaic panels support the shift towards e-mobility, Cobrelli told DW. This is especially true for private passenger motorcycles, which are in heavy demand for short, quick journeys in many African cities. Rwanda's capital, Kigali, for example, has around 26,000 motorbike taxis. To meet its climate goals, the Rwandan government aims to electrify 30% of the fleet by the end of the decade in cooperation with the UN organizations. Several startups have been launched to remove old engines from motorcycles and retrofitting them with electric gear.
Oh man.
No oil change service needed. One of the startups in Rwanda Electric Mobility, one of the startups is Rwanda Electric Mobility, which has so far retrofitted around 125 motorcycles. Quote, you don't need oil. Our motor is service free. You don't need to service the chain. It doesn't have chains. All those costs, they are kept by the rider, said Maxim Mutuyazu, head of the technical department. Cobrelli of the Siemens Foundation, who monitored a pilot project using electric motorcycles in Western Kenya, said some drivers were able to increase their savings by 30% by saving on cost of bikes with internal combustion engines. Quote, some of their riders are really enthusiastic. They said it's the first time in their life they have the feeling they can save some money, she said.
Wow.
The batteries used by most electric motorcycle projects in Kenya, Rwanda, and the greater region can be swapped out, ensuring riders don't have to waste time on charging. Instead, they drop the empty battery at a designated swapping station for a full one, which takes as little time as filling a tank with gasoline.
Dude, okay, I don't want to cut you off, but god damn.
Mm-hmm.
These are like ideas we've been talking about. Like, you have to go through all of the micromobility live streams for those of y'all listening. Like things like virtual gas stations, right? I'm throwing this in air quotes, what they just talked about, where you just pull up somewhere, do a battery drop, right? Throw a charged one in, boom, you're out of here. See, with EVs, you can't do that just yet. There are some quick swap battery charging platforms, but they're not compatible with all the EVs and stuff like that, right? Versus these things.
Are you talking about EV passenger cars?
Yeah. Versus this stuff right here, right? Where you just pull up, it's literally like a key, or however you access the battery part,
Mhm.
right? Pull that battery out, stick another one in, boom, you're out of here. You just plug that other battery up and go.
Mhm.
Very simple. That's where micromobility has the charging infrastructure
Mhm.
uh, question answered.
The batteries remain company property, which is helpful for the riders. The quote: "The battery is still the most expensive part of the motorbike," said Grimberly. "This reduces the cost and minimizes the economic risk of battery failure. However, swapping batteries in larger vehicles isn't always possible or feasible. This is
Just
why
saying this.
this is why Ugandan company Kira Motors came up with another innovative idea using solar energy. Quote: One of the batteries we have as an one of the beauties we have as a nation is that we are located along the equator and we receive sunshine 8 hours consistently throughout the year. I think they means well throughout the day,"
Mm.
said Alan Muhamuza, head of the marketing for Kira Motors. One charge of the solar panel on the bus roof, on the bus's roof, can allow for the 49-seater to travel up to 300 kilometers, 186 miles, enough for a regular day in operation.
Mm, So, is it that? But that's typically being used as continuous charge, right? I mean, they're saying that the panels on the roof have the ability to charge up the bus to
Mhm.
do that, but I'm saying typically what they're doing is they're sending the bus out fully charged, and then the panels are used for continuous charge, right? To
Mhm.
consistently put power in the batteries, given that they have on average what 8 hours they said of
Yeah,
sunlight a day.
yeah.
Yeah.
However, electric buses are still rare in Africa. Kenya's capital, Nairobi, just put its first two into service last year. A bigger rollout is planned for Dakar, Senegal by the end of 2023. It's hoped a new commuter bus network to the suburbs will decongest traffic, with all of its 140 buses running on electricity. But there's also innovation happening far from the capitals. In the northeastern city of Maiduguri in Nigeria, DW met entrepreneur Mustafa Gajibo in his workshop. His electric 12-seater bus has a range of 200 kilometers and is also equipped with solar panels.
Yo.
It's a key car.
Yeah.
Gajibo's Gajibo's hopes for his project goes far beyond uh, Maiduguri. Quote: "My vision is to be the leading manufacturer of electric vehicles, not only in Nigeria, but in the world," he said. Africans are very ambitious,
Yo.
man. Very ambitious people, man.
Let's go.
Electric mobility has some of the obvious benefits. They are free of emissions, harming neither the climate nor the health of the local population. Mobility expert Mara Cobrelli sees yet another advantage. Quote: "This shift to e-mobility also brings the chance for a stronger focus on the Made in Africa brand," she said. Privilege Musa Vanhiri of Zimbabwe. I'm not even going to try to butcher these people's names, man. It's
Did
just
they
one of
write?
those
Did they
things.
write
Yeah,
this with A? Did they write it with AI again?
yeah. No, they're African names. I just don't want to butcher their
Oh, okay. You
names.
don't
But the
butcher
thing
the
here
names, but
is,
yo, that's literally a K. That's a K van right there.
yeah,
It's an electric K van. For those of y'all who don't know, a K car or a K truck or a K van is a classification of car in Japan. It's
mhm,
basically a micro car.
yeah. But the point still stands that micro transportation, micro mobility, all of that stuff is on the rise on the continent. And when I was over there, man, there's a lot of startups over there that's popping out product.
So Mike, let's touch on. Can you go just show this picture right here? Can you go back up a little bit? Just show this whole picture. No, the one no with the chick on the. Okay, so this kind of when you look at this picture, right? This goes along the lines of a running theme that what we've been saying about how Africa is going to jump right to 4IR.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what they're not going to do is bother to like put asphalt on that road right there. Okay. But what they'll do, they'll make an electric trike that can traverse that, no problem.
Well, that's a village, right? So
Yeah.
they're far in the village, so there's no real reason to
Right.
it's the last mile, so there's no real reason to extend that sort of
Right.
infrastructure out there. But a vehicle like this serves its purpose, right?
Right.
And I mean, you're looking at it and you're like, oh man, those people are poor. Yeah, but they're very innovative, man. Like,
But that's that's a subjective notion.
right.
Right. Like okay, that's people in America from their position, right?
Mhm.
Like giving an assessment. Dude, honestly, I think it's the opposite. They're rich. They're rich because there's so much resource there, and things like simple devices like this right here go a long way, right? In turning that resource potential into actual value.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Africa's well on their way to, by literally jumping the shark right to 4IR and embedding it in this. This has been, dude, we've even been pushing this concept with regards, truth as I know, it said 4IR, Fourth Industrial Revolution. We've even been pushing this concept and this notion here in the States when we talked about taking abandoned buildings, turning them into vertical farms, right? Making maker labs and stuff like that, turning recreational centers into maker labs, maker spaces and stuff like that, right? See, so the same thought and the concept that goes into re-terraforming what it is that we have here in ADOS, because what we have is we have developed we have a developed environment, right? With running water and sewage and electrical infrastructure and high speed internet and all that, right? Okay, but we still have an issue with buildings that are unoccupied and food deserts and all that, right? Much in the same way, what they were talking about? They were talking about the fact that if you were using a traditional internal combustion engine motorcycle, 4-stroke bike, and all that kind of stuff, how the roads beat up the bikes, the maintenance on them, how often they go down, and then they go to this right here. They were saving money.
Yeah. And the thing here is, they have no connection to the United States, so it's not like, oh man, they're trying to be like,
right,
New York City or something like that. No, they're saying, hey, I don't have an ox to pull a cart, and I don't have a motorcycle, and so I don't have a car, right? I don't have that ability to go down to the market, transport goods around. I mean, in this picture, she's hauling around
what wood,
wood,
like,
wood. Maybe because they use wood to burn as a fuel for their stoves and stuff like that. I mean, it could be a variety of things that they're doing with that cart, moving, agriculture and things like that, dirt and stuff like that. They saw the need to, one, be climate, be net zero carbon, right? They wanted to be zero carbon, commit to saving their environment. Unlike the United States, where you have roll coal guys, with their big trucks and stuff.
Roll coal,
they can't afford that. They have to preserve their environment for what it is, or else everybody's going to die. But they saw the need and they fulfilled it. And I just think people always have an opinion in this space, like, oh man, that micromobility stuff, man, that ain't nothing, man.
Dude, but they don't get it, bro. They do not get it.
This article says otherwise.
They don't get it.
Mobility for Africa launches pilot phase in Wedza to prove to future investors that the concept is viable. So there's an explosive market popping up over there. It's not just the micromobility of this, but there's actually they have their own version of Uber in Kenya for motorcycles. So basically, if you want to get a motorcycle ride, if you want to ride to a destination somewhere, the Uber app that they have, the rideshare app that they have, they use it on their phone. But as the your driver picks you up on that motorcycle, the telemetry sensors on the phone are collected and sent back, so that when you grade, after you give your feedback about the your ride and the driver itself, all of that is calculated in it. How much they were leaning to get around corners, and whether or not they were lane splitting, and so on and so forth. So that all that
Time.
feedback is real time.
Yeah, all that.
It's real time, right? And so they found a solution to micro transportation as well as ride sharing. And so I'm telling you, man, I was over there. Last time I was over there was in Ghana in October, and I can tell you, man, there's a lot of ambitious people over there.
It's so there's so much growth. There's so much growth potential, bro. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I'm always over here kind of trying to think about how to tap in, over there, because
Mhm.
there's so much. It's bigger, and there's more of a it's not a more of a convenience or luxury need, but it's a infrastructure need.
Mhm.
So the importance of micromobility is different in Africa than, say, the US markets or Europe, where this is more of a it's more of a convenience type of thing in a lot of ways, right? What we're
Mhm.
trying to do. So, like in Cali, we have this slang called a drunk scooter, right? See, so a drunk scooter or a drunk bike is basically like when you take a 49cc gas engine and you slap it onto a regular bike, and people who would typically use those were people who had like a DUI and they couldn't drive a car, right? So they
Yep.
use this thing called a drunk bike. But now, instead of drunk bikes, you have micromobility. You could just go and rent a scooter, right?
Mhm.
You could just do that. See, so America has a different sort of view and application to it versus over on the continent. It's a need more than anything.
And it fits right when it fits within their environment's scope of objectives of having this sort of carbon neutral environment. So,
Right. Right.
all right, next item on the docket is from Fox Business. UPS FedEx partner airline agrees to buy 20 pilotless cargo planes in $134 million deal.
Pilotless cargo planes.
Ameriflight, a cargo airline that partners with shipping giants UPS, FedEx, and DHL, has announced a $134 million deal to buy 20 autonomous aircraft from Nautilus as part of its push to build the air cargo network of the future.
Oh shit.
The feeder services company based in Dallas, in a statement that the new planes will, quote, aid in modernizing Ameriflight's fleets. What the fuck is Ameriflight's fleets, and allow the offering of a high quality and differentiated product in a part of the industry seeing exponential growth. Nautilus technology is at the forefront of autonomous innovation and provides a lower cost of operation while remaining well suited in capabilities for the customers in our corner of the industry, said Ameriflight president and COO Alan Russowitz. Ameriflight says the Nautilus fleet of carbon fiber blended wing body design cargo aircraft offers a 60% reduction to cost operations and cuts carbon emissions by half.
So that thing
And
is
that,
super light.
yeah, it's got to be stupid. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, the only thing
super
that's
light.
probably weight on is
Carbon.
the engines, the
Shit.
motors.
Yep. Batteries. The batteries, dude.
Yeah. The Nautilus Kona, which Ameriflight is eyeing, is a 3.8 ton payload short haul feeder uncrewed aerial vehicle. It added, it will be used to support the company's increased business opportunities, primarily for Ameriflight's expedited supply chain services. The deal with Nautilus, which is based in San Diego, is valued at $134 million, according to the website FreightWaves. Nautilus co-founder and CEO Alexei
Don't butcher it.
Mehdi Youssef also told the news website that it expects to begin Kona flight tests late next year and customer deliveries by 2026. Ameriflight says it has grown from a small air charter and cargo service carrier to an international operator with 14 bases, 1,500 weekly departures and 200 destinations with more than 500 employees, including over 150 pilots and over 100 aircraft. I find,
Okay. I got some questions. Go ahead, dude.
No, I just find that I think this was inevitable that you were going to see things like this. I know when I was in Africa, you saw Zipline, which is a drone company.
I was going to say that they're on the drone. Well, okay, that was my question to you. This is just okay. So, like, let's look at military drones, right? Those things are like damn near the size of like an actual plane, right? And they have human operators on the ground.
But it doesn't have any cargo capacity.
But it doesn't have any cargo. You're right.
Yeah.
Okay. But could we sort of make that sort of correlation that these are just payload drones, let's just call them. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think the military's use of the technology made it that much affordable to implement it at the commercial
That
side.
was going to be my next question. Did the military use serve as the use case for this in terms of the future of not air freight? Not only air freight, but also commercial or consumer air.
Well, I think what the military did more than anything is that they've created the market for the components, right? The technologies, right? So that you kind of got a better idea of, okay, this did not work for the U.S. military, or this did work for the U.S. military. The things that were viable, let's take it, and the things that did not work, let's not do that. Yeah, let's not do that, right? And I think that that has made the cost come down, and it also has made the market more viable. Right. And so now you can say, yes, it does work. Yes, drones do work. They do work just fine. They kill people all the time in other countries, right? Yep. And their loitering time is 30 to 36 hours without refuel. We know that it works. So now the next step, if you're Ameriflight or any other, Zipline or something like that, okay, how do you get the licensing aspect down? Because you can have all the ambition in the world, but if there's no regulation and there's no licensing, to make things viable, to go to take your product to market, it's not going to make any sense.
Well, I was going to say, do you think that the military application of it is what led the way to a commercial sort of designation for pilotless cargo?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think that I think that created the catalyst for it, because now you start to think, okay, what else how else do we expand this, right? And how do we do it in a way that it's repeatable, right? And imagine, like, when I was in Rwanda, that was one of the things that they were talking about, was delivering vaccines to other parts of the country that did not have any civilian infrastructure for driving down. Right, so you can go into the middle of a village somewhere that has 10,000 people, 20,000 people, like in Nubia, in Kenya. There's 600,000 people in the village, but you can't really get to it.
What?
Yeah,
in a village, dude, 500,000.
Yeah. And so they live on top of each other. It's really compact, right? And so. Imagine Hong Kong, in that regard. What I'm saying here is that 600,000 people live in this village, but how do you traverse it? You can't just drive a passenger vehicle.
No, drone
in that area. And so,
you use a drone.
You would have a platoon of drones. So imagine in this picture right here, you have this Ameriflight plane. That's just one plane. Imagine if you had 24, 36, 48, 96. All flying at the same time to the same destination to drop off various parcels of cargo. And
Yeah.
if imagine if you had the roadway that can double as a runway.
Well, I was gonna say, wouldn't you with something like that, you would use like as you can build it out, various other like say road runway drop points, right? But I
Mhm,
would say that you would use like your main points to use these services and then use the smaller drones that can carry packages, various parcels and stuff
mhm.
that do like that quote unquote last mile type of situation. Right,
Yeah.
because you don't have as many airports, roads, and stuff like that. However, you would have. Well, I mean, I'm speaking in terms of Africa anyway, right? Because you were
Mhm,
mentioning like the village stuff, right?
mhm,
But that's where you kind of have like a mixed use sort of use case
mhm.
where we're talking about pilotless cargos to deliver large payloads, and then the smaller drones, right? That then take packages and then take them to different coordinated like drop points, and then you have somebody on the ground in a tuk tuk or like a trike picking up packages and then doing deliveries. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's an ecosystem that needs to be designed out.
Yes. Yeah.
That's an ecosystem that needs to be designed out. So that's the sort of stuff
Wait,
that's
wait, wait.
going on over there. We covered that I think we covered it about a month or so ago that there's a Ghanaian company and some people out in Ghana who would develop
Yeah, because of the
e-logistics.
Ghanaian company, the logistics with the app. I forgot what it
Yeah,
was called. We covered that.
yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
real quick, do you see this right here? This actually scares me a lot. Have you ever heard of cargo cult? Do you know what? Are you familiar with cargo cult?
I'm not familiar with cargo cult,
I'm
but
not
maybe
either.
maybe it might be a term might be used as like platooning.
Bro, Carter, if you could elaborate, we're not familiar.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, bro.
All right. Next item is from Electrek. I bought an electric tuk tuk to drive in a first world country, and it's a perfect city truck.
Hmm.
Just talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked a lot about how trucks and SUVs are simply more vehicle than most people need, especially in cities and in crowded areas. But talk is cheap and actions speak louder than words. So I put my money where my mouth is, and I bought the only truck uh, I should ever need for a city. Oh, and did I mention it only has three wheels? That's right. This beautiful crimson cargo carrier is what is locally referred to as a rickshaw, but often carries the name tuk tuk in many parts of the world. They are more common in countries like Thailand, India, China, and others, whose transportation methods are often dismissed because their streets don't look like ours in the West. But why should we ignore solutions just because they look unfamiliar to us? Wasn't we
But
just talking about that earlier?
but wait a minute. See, the thing is that municipal city workers, uh, lawn keeping people, like golf
Mhm,
courses, stuff like that,
mhm,
meter maids, right? They all drive these things. We know what tuk tuks are. I
mhm.
just think that what we haven't done is explore the full use capabilities of them.
Yep.
But we have these things here in the States. Yeah.
It may seem a bit strange, but stick with me. This is one of the most incredible city utility vehicles you've ever seen. So here's the basic setup. Up front, I've got a motorcycle style suspension fork and motorcycle controls. That means handlebars, a front brake lever, and a twist throttle. There's a foot pedal to activate the rear drum brakes, but I almost never use it since the front hydraulic disc brake is plenty strong, and you don't have the traction penalty of falling over if you grab too much front brake like a two-wheel vehicle. There are three speed settings: a reverse gear, high and low beams, turn signals, and a windshield wiper control, all available either on the bars or in the cockpit.
Hmm.
There are there's around 80 liters of storage under the front bench seat, accessible by flipping it up. It doesn't lock, but it's a good place to put several bags of groceries that you don't want rolling around in the bed on the way home from the supermarket. And speaking of the bed, check this thing out. Now I know what you're thinking. Quote, that thing doesn't compare to a real pickup truck's bed. You're absolutely right. It's so much better. Here's why. First of all, the bed has not just one, but three gates. There's a typical tailgate, of course, but then the sides can also be unlatched to fold down. That allows it to convert from a pickup truck style bed to a flat bed truck. You can carry large things on the back that you couldn't fit in most pickup truck beds. If I ever need to haul 4x8 sheets of plywood, drywall, or anything else, I can do it. Next, the bed is a fold down bench for passengers to sit in the back. Depending on where you live, it may not be legal to have passengers back there. Here, the vehicles are fine to drive on the road, but I once saw a cop use his bullhorn to tell someone to get the passengers out of the back. So I guess that's not allowed. Interesting. But the functionality is pretty cool. To have a bed with a fold down jump seat for two adults, three kids. Oh, and you can also fit two people in the driver's bench. It's more comfortable as a solo gig, but I've ridden with my wife there, and you just kind of reach over the lap of that person next to you. Since it's center drive, you can sit on either side of the bench when you share it with a passenger. But sitting on the right side is easier since you're not reaching as far for the throttle and the brake level. Lastly, the entire bed tilts, turning it into a dump truck.
Oh,
It's
shit.
not,
Okay, as a tilting bed.
yeah, it's not hydraulically activated, so you've got to lift it yourself. But if you were carrying a bunch of stuff back there, like a pile of raked leaves, dirt, or even just wanted to tilt up the bed to hose it down, you can do it. Show me a common pickup truck with a dumping bed. I'll wait.
You know what I would do? I would wire up a winch, a small little winch, right? So that when you could like lift the bed up, dump stuff out, and then the winch will pull it back down.
Mm.
Yeah.
I've had this electric rickshaw for about 6 weeks now, and I've already used it to carry a ton of stuff. I have no idea what the weight limit is for the back, but the rear axle mounted motor is quite powerful at just under 4,000 watts of peak
Oh,
power.
that's plenty. That's plenty power.
Mhm. It even has a low high gear selector that drops the top speed in half but doubles the torque, making it easier to haul heavier stuff on or climb hills.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's electric motor. It can haul plenty.
Yeah. Speaking of speed, and the max is out at 28 miles per hour, though I've never attempted to go that fast. It seems happier at slow speeds, which is fine because this is a city after all. The suspension
28
isn't,
miles an hour. That's not bad.
that's well within business.
Good.
A thickly settled district, right? I think a thickly settled district is 30 miles an hour. So that's the fastest you're supposed to be
Yeah,
going.
that's fine.
The biggest load I've hauled so far has been a double bed with a headboard when helping a family member move. Since we live in a city, most of the family either doesn't own a car or has a sedan. No one could move a bed. Well, no one except for me. Imagine the smug look on my face when I told my wife, see, I knew it'd come in handy.
Hey, Mike. I'm gonna step away for 1 second. All right, go.
All
Just
right, man.
continue.
All right. For those few times that you need to haul something bigger than will fit in a car trunk, something like this is perfect. Look at just about every pickup truck you see on the road. I'd wager that 90% of them are either driving around with empty beds or they have the equivalent of a backpack full of random crap floating around back there. What a waste. This bed might be a bit smaller, but the entire vehicle is also small at just 10 feet. That makes it easier to maneuver, uses less fuel, and simply fits better in the city. When you need a bed, it's there, but when you don't need it, it doesn't take up as much space as a massive truck. Interesting. I've since figured out the right Tetris moves to fit my 2 electric scooters and my electric rickshaw into a single parking space with room left over on the side. I think that means I need to get another electric scooter. In fact, electric rickshaw is so narrow that I can even lane split. That means when there are 30 cars backed up at a red light waiting for it to change, I can just slip right down alongside everyone into the front line. Before you get angry, note that this is in Tel Aviv, where lane splitting is not only legal, but also encouraged as the safest and most efficient method for everyone. Small vehicles don't wait in traffic, but rather squirt out ahead where they get out and where they get out of the way and are also readily seen by all. Anyways, I'm not going to go through all of this, but the point of the matter here is that we were just talking about this in Africa, that this is pretty much where the market is going when it comes to micromobility.
Yep.
You see a lot of people driving around and people are starting to buy these like not Ford, but Honda Ridgelines now. Very, very interesting, like this sort of half car, half pickup truck.
Like it's like a half SUV, half pickup.
Yeah. It's not a 4x4, so it's not meant to be a rock climber and anything like that. But it's, for all intents and purposes, it's very practical. But even those have empty beds. People aren't really using them as pickup trucks in the way that they should. And so, if I was on the continent or somewhere in Latin America somewhere, I think this is one of those things that you just gotta have. It's gonna come in handy at some point, right? Like it says right here. I told my wife, "See, I knew it would come in handy." It is just one of those times that you just like, if I can afford it, let me just grab it. I'll put it to the side, and when it comes time to need it, I'd rather have it and not need it than to need it and not have it.
I'm gonna tell you right now, dude. So a couple things. If you look at that tuk-tuk right there, and if you remove the windshield, okay, that's what that chick in Africa was riding. In that the last article or the article before this one, or was the last one?
Article before.
Okay, it's the same thing. If you notice, I'm looking at the battery placement. It's right below the seat, just like on the other one. Right. So I'm saying what we have is now we have a use case in a more modern environment. We were just talking about this. I was saying, okay, well, there's the argument that's made to utilize. There you go, right there. You see where the battery is, and if you put a canopy up over her head, right from the front light up over her head, right there, you've basically got a tuk-tuk. That red tuk-tuk. Some of the styling or whatever is different. The bed looks different and all that, but look at that. It's basically the same thing without a windshield. Okay, but what this guy's doing is essentially the same vehicle that she's using. This one has a windshield, but he's making the use case in a first industrial environment.
Right.
This is what we're trying to tie together here, right? Like, yeah. There's a first industrial, right?
First world.
I'm sorry, first world application, and then a quote unquote third world application. And there's a justification, and the justifications for both are largely the same reasoning.
Yeah, and the thing here is, I'll just kind of pass on it. But I just think that some people are always so quick to like downplay certain ideas where there's practicality to it, and I'm like, why would I go out there and buy like a F-250 dually or F-350 dually or something like that and just ride around with an empty bed all day?
But my primary issue here is it's utility more than anything else.
Yeah.
Right. When the weather's good, anytime I need to go to the grocery store, or my daughter and I go to the grocery store, we use the scooters. We don't use the vehicle. Because in California, when you get into the warm weather season, that's when gas is the highest, right? Makes more sense to hop on a small little electric vehicle and do those runs and save the money on the gas.
Right.
right? That's another first world application to all of this, right? So that's a use case and a reason for why you would want to incorporate these types of vehicles.
Absolutely. All right, this is from Inside EVs. Toyota and Dow's Cycles teams up to release a new electric cargo bike.
Oh
The
shit,
cargo
Toyota's in
e-bike,
the game now.
yeah, the cargo e-bike will be made available in France and cater to the last mile delivery sector.
Wow.
Across the globe, automakers are making the shift to two wheels by offering electrically assisted bicycles alongside developing electric cars for various markets around the globe. In France, in particular, the government has been pretty aggressive in promoting electric bicycles as a solid alternative to driving a car, especially on trips in and around the city. Well, that's kind of a misnomer because I could have swore the mayor of Paris was trying to get rid of all the
I was
e-scooters
about to say, didn't we just cover that a few weeks ago?
about a month or so ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
To capitalize on the growing interest in for electric bicycles, Toyota and French e-bike brand Dow's have joined forces to come up with a new electric cargo bike with the potential to replace your car. The new e-bike called the Dow's Cycles X Toyota Mobility cargo bike is designed to fulfill the need of both individuals and businesses operating in the last mile delivery service.
Dude. I need
The Dow
to
Cycles X
I need to
Toyota
get one of these plugs, man. I need to make one of these plugs, dude. This is crazy. Toyota's in the game now. Shit.
Oh, what a feeling, right? The Dow Cycles X, the Dow Cycles X Toyota Mobility cargo bike is rather stylish and distinguishes itself from the long tails that Dow Cycles already selling with its sturdy aluminum frame. Bulky items weighing up to 100 kilos may be transported on its 850 millimeter long loading platform, which is placed in the front of the rider. To further boost transport capacity, the frame is hitch compatible.
Wow.
These features are particularly useful for those working in the delivery sector as a lot of stuff can be carried in the storage compartment, minimizing the need for multiple trips to the sorting center to pick up additional parcels or packages. Meanwhile, individuals can make use of the extra storage space by configuring it to carry passengers. Either three children or one adult can ride in the front storage compartment, so long as it's outfitted with the appropriate seats and harness.
See, I don't like that application for these types of bikes. I've seen it, right? And it's fine if you buy it for your personal use and you ride your kids around in it. I don't see that from a commercial standpoint. I don't see the viability in it. I see it as a cargo, literally moving shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. On
the performance side of the equation, the cargo bike is powered by a Yamaha electric motor with a nominal output of 250 watts. A 500 watt an hour battery pack supplies power to the motor and is removable for convenient charging off the bike. As for range, you can expect around 62 miles on a single charge.
Okay.
However,
That's my question. I was going to say, why only 250 watts? But then you get 60 miles out of it.
Mhm.
Let's just hope you don't have to hit hills.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, if you have to hit hills 250 watts, you're going to be pedaling more than that motor is going to be cranking out. I'm going to tell you right now. Yeah.
Last but not least, for easy storage, the bike's front end can be detached. At present, Toyota and Dow Cycles have yet to announce pricing on the new cargo electric bicycle. That said, the bike is expected to hit the market by September 2023. France doesn't have a whole lot of hills. Europe is actually pretty flat,
it's flat
in that area.
Yeah,
it's pretty flat in that area, so you don't have a whole lot of elevation.
The reason why I said that is because out here in Cali, right? We were trying to launch some of the Razor stuff for like delivery, right? The problem is that depending on certain parts of LA where you are, where we're trying to launch this stuff, a 350 watt motor is not going to do it. Dude, you got to go to 500. Yeah,
unless you got some strong legs.
Well, no, we're talking like e-scooters, right? So we're not even talking pedaling. Yeah, that's why I was like, even with the bike, you still want, Because like even with our bikes, dude, we're running the 750-watt Bafang mid drive, but what we do is we knock it down to 500. We can always like crank it up, but
Hmm.
you always want the ability to eat some hills if you need to, right? So even with the scooters and stuff, 350 watt, typically if you weigh more than 150 pounds, eh, you need 500 watts,
Yeah.
like in terms of motor crank in order to eat hills and stuff like that. But no, I'm just tripping on. Okay, so we've covered. Let's see, Bugatti, we've covered McLaren, we've covered Mercedes, all these companies that have an interest in micromobility in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Now let's add Toyota to the mix.
Wasn't Ford involved as well?
Yes, with Spin.
Yeah.
That's their micromobility company, Spin.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's get to the next item on the docket. All right, this is from TechCrunch. Lyft wants to reshape shared micromobility with dockable e-scooter.
Hmm.
Lyft wants to see a more organized shared micromobility landscape with fewer free floating scooters and more dependable docked vehicles. To help achieve this vision, the company revealed Thursday its next generation dockable e-scooter and updated docking stations. While while mainly a ride-hail operator, Lyft also provides dock bike share programs in 8 cities across the United States. Last year, the company acquired PBSC Urban Solutions, a Canadian supplier for bike share equipment and technology, more than doubling its micromobility footprint.
Hmm.
If cities are keen, Lyft said it could retrofit some of its existing 100,000 bike docks to accommodate the new scooters.
Oh, okay. I see what they're doing.
In the meantime, Lyft will slowly phase in the new scooters and potentially new docking stations in cities where it currently operates a scooter share network: Chicago, Denver, Washington D.C., and Minneapolis. Why Minneapolis though? Yeah, I just think Minneapolis has a lot of snow up there. Like,
It
why?
does. It does. But shout out to my business partner, Anti-Grav.
Yeah,
He's in Minnesota. When the weather is good, they use the shit a lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I can imagine. Starting with DC by mid-February, Lyft intends to bring its first 1,000 new e-scooters to the capital to run alongside older units until their end of life, before introducing another 1,000 scooters by mid-2023.
Okay.
Last year, Lyft expanded its bike share program in Chicago, Divvy, to include dock scooters. There are now 5 pilot grid connected charging stations in the city, and Lyft plans to roll out 30 by the end of this year. Quote: "We have this incredible dock base in large cities around the country where we will begin to, in some cases, replace, and in other expand the network, depending on the city." Caroline Saporano, head of micromobility and transit policy at Lyft, told TechCrunch. Quote: "We are doubling down on station-based approach
Hmm.
in partnership with cities to deliver what is essentially a public transportation service in the biggest cities around the world."
Now, Mike, just real quick, the reason why they're doing that is because cities are mandating it now,
Hmm.
right? The cities are requiring it because we had now this goes back a couple of years ago. We would talk about the whole phenomenon of what they call e-scooter litter, e-bike litter, right? Just bikes just dockless and just strewn about, right? There's not some sort of organized kind of integration
Hmm.
into the environment. Now you see these docks right here, for example, right? Where Now, my assumption is that each one of those little ports right there, there's like a vehicle that can dock up to it, right, and plug in. And I'll when we finish with this article, if you want, I can screen share and show you guys and show everybody um, a similar platform that our vehicles are compatible with, that we can utilize, and that we've also looked at getting contracts for to get this type of stuff installed. But it's the same thing. I can show people what we're talking about here.
When shared e-scooters first infiltrated cities, part of their lure was their dockless nature, the ability to stumble upon them in seemingly random places, outside of your apartment complex, near the movie theater, up a tree. Even more attractive was the possibility of ditching the vehicles wherever you happen to hop off of them. Of course, this free floating structure has also resulted in chaos. Will I find a scooter? Uh, will I find a scooter where and when I need it? Will I trip over one that has fallen over in the middle of the sidewalk? Is there even another way to share e-scooters? Lyft, the quiet cultivator is it of a hardy dock bike share ridership, might prove that docked e-scooters can add some order to the disarray. And if any company is going to pull off a docked scooter model, it would be Lyft. Lyft's existing bike share presence means it not only already has docking stations that can be retrofitted, but it also has the experience battling with localities to give up parking spaces in the service of micromobility.
I'm gonna call BS on that. Just me personally,
Mhm,
and that's just me talking from working in the LA market for as long as I did. I don't think the big wigs got it. I
mhm.
think it's the smaller guys who got it, who have the answers.
The company also sees introducing dock scooters alongside its bikes and e-bikes as a way to create a value proposition for riders by giving them more choice of vehicles within a single membership. Lyft says its members ride 10 times as often as non-members. And in New York, where Lyft operates City Bike, that number is 20 times more often. Dock scooters could easily be slotted into the membership option to create a more cohesive transportation network. Riders also have predictability and reliability, which Lyft station stations provide, especially when placed near transit hubs. Of course, the success of dock scooters hinges on what Lyft wants most: long-term partnerships with cities. Because when you're talking about infrastructure, you need to think at least 5 years out.
Wait, Mike, didn't I tell you that the cities are requiring this shit now?
Yep. Quote, you're not going to put up a station and then pull it back up the next year, said Soprano. You want to think about it as infrastructure that fits into protected bike lane networks, or that works well with transit hubs. And those are planning exercises that are longer term. Quote, whether or not cities will go for the dock scooter model is another question. Lyft recently left San Diego, which was one of its first e-scooter markets, in part because the city didn't want to adopt the dock vision that Lyft is pushing.
Okay, now here's the thing.
Mhm.
Lyft wanted the city to front the money to build that. There was an RFP that came across my email for San Diego.
Mhm.
Okay. But what they're looking for is they're looking for someone to come in to do that. So that's something separate. See, what Lyft wanted the city to do it. The city's like, okay, but somebody else is going to do it. We're not going to do it, right?
Mhm.
You see, so this micromobility thing. It's like I said, this is a burgeoning market. It's a burgeoning market, and with the United States, um, because of how companies traditionally do business with the cities and what have you, right? There's a lot of like back and forth between, well, what are you guys going to do for us, and what is it that we're going to do for you as a result versus the more of like the social or shared component, right?
Mhm.
Because what we're talking about here is one, the organization of micro transportation, right? We want this to be a clean sort of integration into the community, into like the street corners, charging hubs. We don't want just shit laying on the ground. What we want is like what you showed, like those hubs and stuff like that, right? We want something very organized, integrated. People can walk up, get it, it's fully charged, get to where they got to go, and then wherever they get to, there's another place where you can just integrate it, plug it in, dock it up, right? That's really where the cities want to go with it.
Yeah. We're updating and improving micromobility so that it has a future that includes the benefit of the station, the scooter, and the bike all in one.
Boom.
Aside from DC and Chicago, Lyft might try to implement dock scooters alongside its extensive bike share network in NYC as well. The city is currently in the middle of an application process to extend its e-scooter program in the Bronx.
Hmm.
Lyft will be one of the first micromobility operators to deploy Segway 9bot's new AI-powered scooter.
Oh shit. Oh
The
god.
next gen scooter is built with a computer vision technology powered by Qualcomm to detect sidewalk riding, parking, and obstacles. Later this year, Lyft will release a model that can be charged while docked at Lyft's new stations. But today's vehicles are built with swappable batteries for dockless operations. The next gen scooter is also built with user-friendly features like a chargeable phone mount, dual handbrakes, and turn signals. Lyft told TechCrunch the ride is much sturdier as well due to the 11.5-inch airless tires with anti-slip tread patterns and updated suspension system. The new station, which Lyft is calling the Pillar, is designed to be smaller, more flexible, so it can be integrated better into city landscapes. Quote, one of the things we hear a lot from our city partners is if we can take it up, if we could take up little less space with the station, said Soprano. You want to have all types of city streets built to accommodate that parking infrastructure. So the new pillar station is meant to be scaled based on the space that you have. So you can have a big footprint in a major transit center, or you can scale down you can scale that down to a few docks based on neighborhood setting.
Mm-hmm. Mike, can I share my screen here real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I'll just show everybody kind of what we're speaking about specifically here. You guys see this? Do you see this here?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you see the different types of vehicles that are plugged into this one dock right here?
Mm-hmm.
Right. We got two e-scooters. We got an e-bike. There's another e-scooter. We got an electric skateboard, and we have a mobility chair. Right. All of these things plug in. It's universal, and it's IoT enabled also. Right. This is literally the same thing that they're talking about. The design on this is different, obviously. Right. So that's what I would say at this point, it's more about like the aesthetics. And this is a dock that our vehicles are integrated with, by the way. It's a company called Commute. So
Oh.
I know they have like a new design of dock, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is from 2021. I
Mm-hmm.
know that they basically come up with different dock designs, and they manufacture all of this stuff. Okay. But the name of the game is making this stuff as universal as possible, right? So you can integrate different things in terms of charging capabilities. And also, because like I said, this dock right here is also IoT powered. So that means that not only does this thing have the capability to charge, but you can walk up to it because the app on your phone says, hey, there's an e-bike right here. right? Charged up, ready to go. You just walk right up here, boop, scan it, take it, and go.
It was done by proximity.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
Now, is that, I mean, how does that work in regards to weather? Like,
And what you mean
inclement weather, does it?
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
all of that stuff has what they call like IP like there's like IP57, IP63,
Yep.
IP. So there's all these different waterproof ratings, right? So all of that type of stuff right there, when it comes to commercial grade, it's all IP67 and above, right? Waterproofing.
Mhm.
Um, in terms of functionality and let's just say inclement weather, like really cold weather, I don't think there's a problem with regards to wet weather. Like we've had scooters out here while it's been raining the last, let's just say 3 to 4 weeks out here. We've been having these storms coming in and out here and stuff. And I got to the point I just kept the scooters out in the field. I just said, fuck it. We're gonna just keep them out. We didn't receive any water damage at all. So
Mhm.
wet weather's not the issue. I think cold weather, because like with anything electronics wise, you dip below, what is it, 30 degrees, 30 to 25 degrees. Once you dip below there, you start to have issues with electrical components operating in very cold weather, right? Unless the batteries and stuff like that are actually insulated. So as long as we have proper insulation and proper waterproofing, these types of I don't think the weather should be that much of a problem.
All right. Next item on the docket is from Boston Herald. Boston offers transit benefits to city employees to discourage driving. I don't know why it's doing this. Oh, let me fix this real quick.
All right. Hey, Mike, go ahead and get started on that article, dude. I'm gonna step away for just a second, man. My daughter wants me to go grab her something.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, let's try this one more time. All right. Boston offers transit benefits to city employees to discourage driving. So we've been talking about this for a while now, but we're seeing this start to creep down. This is the docking station that Complex was kind of referring to earlier. A new benefits package rolled out to city employees is geared at getting more cars off the road through enhanced incentives for public transit and bike share use. Mayor Michelle Wu announced Wednesday that the city of Boston will pay 65% of each employee's MBTA monthly pass of their choice, a significant cost savings compared to the pre-tax discount workers have been offered previously. The city is also offering free Blue Bike memberships to employees who were previously paying $60 a month for a $119 annual pass, and has expanded employees' annual fitness reimbursement to include active mobility expenses. expenses. Quote, the city is one of the largest employers in Boston. It's 18,000 people, said Kat Eschel, Boston's deputy director of climate and environment planning. Quote, and if the city is going to move in this direction, it sends a clear signal to the other employees that they need to be getting serious about the kind of transit benefits that we need to see across the city in order to get more people out of personal vehicles and into transit and on bikes and walking. ASHA represents a group of city workers that have advocated for a comprehensive transit benefits package, which had previously been essentially a minor tax-free discount on monthly subway, commuter rail, or bus passes, and a half-price Blue Bikes pass that had to be negotiated by employees and wasn't well known by workers. Bicycle and Active Transportation Employee Resource Group first sought the change in 2020 via a letter sent to the former Boston Mayor Marty Walsh in 2020, but didn't get much traction due to the pandemic and advent of remote work. Eschel said. When Wu took over in 2022, Eschel said the group dusted off the letter, sent it to the new administration, and was immediately put in touch with the city's then new chief of streets, Joshua Franklin Hodge. Essentially, the group made the case that the city provided more incentive to employees to drive to work rather than take the bus, train, or commute by bike. For example, parking is free at most city buildings, including 1010 Mass Ave and the bowling building, the bowling municipal building, which equates to a commuter subsidy for driving by comparison. Private sector employee parking tends to cost $40 a day or $350 a month. The group wrote last February. Quote, we need to better incentivize taking shared modes and reduce incentives to drive, the letter said. Once the interest became mutual, the group partnered with the city's Office of Human Resources to conduct a survey to gather data on how employees were commuting to work and what needed to be done to change the behavior. People did explicitly say, in order to change their behavior, subsidize benefits for bike and MBTA and other modes of active transit is exactly what would change their behavior. So you have to pay these people. you have to subsidize these things.
Yeah.
Okay?
Wait. Don't they subsidize every goddamn thing else?
Right. That's what they're saying, that all this stuff wasn't inclusive.
Yeah.
Quote, I think this, to us, hit the sort of Green New Deal for Boston points, really. Like using every single tool in our toolbox to decrease carbon emissions. Lawrence said the new benefits package will also be used as an employee retention and recruiting tool, as the city aims to be an employer of choice and adapt its workplace policies to better support the needs of our workforce.
So they want to use it also as to attract talent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The interest is there. The interest is there so far, according to Lawrence, who said employees enrolling in MBTA monthly pass benefits jumped from 747 to 1,319. And those seeking Blue Bike memberships went from under 100 to 574.
Wow.
As of Wednesday. The city is also a participating employer in a 2-year pilot the MBTA is running as part of its expanded pay-per-use limited fare program. Roughly 4,000 randomly selected city employees will have unlimited access to subway and local bus services starting this spring, with costs covered by City Hall.
Unlimited?
Yep. Other participating employers include Google, Santify, and Assembly Row retailers. So they're talking about Google here locally.
Right.
And Santify is the pharmaceutical company.
Okay.
Quote, that will really, I think, give us better data about sort of making fare free transit available to people, Lawrence said. So what they want to do is try to make what they call UBN, universal.
What is it? What was it? UV. What is it called?
UBN, Universal Basic Mobility.
Yeah, universal. Yeah, UBM. That's something we talked about like a minute ago,
Yep.
right? It was along when we were really talking about the UBI stuff when people thought we were full of shit, right?
Hmm.
And then when the pandemic happened, all of a sudden you got these stimulus by another name, right?
Yeah. COVID relief.
Yeah. So this is like the same concept. And what's interesting, Mike, is I had made mention that they're using it as kind of like a recruitment amenity. Okay, because think about it like this: you're in salary negotiations and what have you, right? And they're
Hmm.
saying, well, look, this job is in Boston. Everything is kind of close together. There's not much distance that you would have to go to get to here to here to here to there. So one of the things they do is they say, well, like you take this job here, live in a city like Boston, you don't need a car. We'll provide you with an e-bike.
They're the largest employer, and so they're looking at maximizing all of this, right?
think,
Imagine if you can
think
get
about
two,
it.
yeah, 2/3 of your employees to go ride a bike to work. Now you just took eight. You just took what 9,000 bikes off the road.
Well,
9,000 cars off the road.
but think about this too. Look about the cost savings, right?
Hmm.
Right, like so the employee is actually making more money because they have an alternative transportation option, right? And they're not
Hmm.
paying a car payment, insurance, gasoline, all that
Hmm.
kind of stuff, right? They're
Hmm.
actually making more money.
But I also think it's inevitable that cities and states are going to require that e-bikes and e-scooters you're going to have to bring your own insurance in case you fall down, in case you get hit by somebody, or in
Pro-
case you hit somebody.
Progressive offers that. You
Yeah,
know that? Did you know that?
yeah, but it's not mandated. It's not mandatory, right?
No, and it's not mandatory, but you can purchase, and dude, it's probably like $7 or $8 a month.
Yeah.
You can through Progressive, you can purchase insurance if you have an e-bike. For those
Mhm.
of you guys who are listening, okay, you can literally provide or purchase insurance through Progressive for your e-bike or e-scooter. So just like what you said, you get into an accident, somebody hits you, something like that, you're covered.
Yeah. All right. Let me get to the.
Now, what sucks is Progressive they don't offer that for commercial e-bikes and e-scooter fleets. I've checked on this, trust me. Me and Alonzo both. Alonzo Hall, shout outs to him.
Yep.
But for consumer, just for the
Mhm.
individual, yeah, man, six. I think last time I checked, it was like $8 a month,
So
and
it's
it
about a
covered
super cat.
yeah, and it covered you if you got hit, and all that stuff.
It's a super chat a month. Sounds like it.
Shit.
Little stickies. All right. Next item on the docket is from Electrek. Mercedes-Benz Drive Pilot becomes first level 3 autonomous driving system to be certified for U.S. roads.
Wow.
Mercedes-Benz may be celebrating on the casino floor in Las Vegas right now. It has announced its Drive Pilot conditional autonomous driving system that has been authorized for use on public roads, beginning in Nevada. Drive Pilot now sits as the only SAE Level 3 system in production EV certified for operation as Mercedes looks to expand further west this year. I remember
Damn.
I rented a I had to borrow a car from the dealership, and it was one of these brand new Mercedes. I think it was like a 2022 or 2021 or something like that. But
Mhm.
this thing had all sorts of. I'm a tech guy, man, and this thing had more tech than I can even handle myself.
What
Um,
model was it? Do you
it was
remember?
I think it was an S class. Um, this was top of the line. I have never seen anything like this before.
Was it hybrid?
I'm not entirely sure, but it basically can park itself. Um,
Oh, so it had the whatchamacallit. Yeah, self-parking technology.
yeah,
Okay, okay.
yeah, yeah.
That's like what is that? That's like the level 2 or something like that, autonomy or something like that. But yeah,
Mm-mm. It's got to be more than that. It's got to be level 3.
Is it level
It's
3?
got to be a level 3 because I mean you're taking your hands off the wheel and it's parking itself.
And it's parking itself. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that might be level 3.
Yeah, that's got to be. I mean, I don't know. It maybe a like level 2.5 or something like that. You know, Mercedes-Benz Drive Pilot first arrived on the roads in Germany in May of 2022. Before then, however, we got a chance to experience Mercedes Distronic active distance assist, which builds upon the level 2 autonomy the German automaker has been delivering for years. Distronic ensures the vehicle maintains a pre-selected distance from the vehicle in front of it, while also maintaining other assist features like lane keep and active steering. This level 2 form of autonomous driving requires the Mercedes driver to keep their hands on the wheel, but that is not the case for the level 3 Drive Pilot technology. Drive Pilot builds upon the existing surround sensors to drive of the driving assistance package in an EQS, for example, but utilizes additional sensors, including LiDAR and a camera in the rear window. Additionally, Drive Pilot uses microphones to detect approaching emergency vehicles and a road wetness sensor in the wheel well. Interesting. Add redundant steering, brake, and actuators and onboard electrical system, and any Mercedes driver with Drive Pilot is secure and safely handling control back over to the driver should any one system fail. Human safety is something Mercedes-Benz preaches regularly when discussing its autonomous technology, and it stems by its work. Hence why the German automaker is the first authorized to operate SAE Level 3 autonomous driving in the US. According to Mercedes-Benz, its Drive Pilot conditional driving system complies with the requirements of Nevada Chapter 482A for autonomous vehicle and is now authorized to allow drivers to hand over driving to the vehicle. Under certain conditions, of course. For example, Drive Pilot is currently only authorized to operate at speeds of up to 40 miles per hour.
So that's city. That's like basically city driving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other automakers like Tesla have their own levels of autonomous driving assistance. There's also Ford Blue Cruise, not to be confused with GM's Super Cruise. However, where Mercedes-Benz now leads in achieving SAE Level 3 authorization for autonomous driving is the fact that when Drive Pilot is engaged and the driver has their hands off the wheel, the vehicle is liable for anything that happens. No other automaker in the US can say that right now. Their drivers are still ultimately at fault should an accident occur. Even if the Mercedes driver fails to take back control of the EV after increasingly urgent prompting, the system will automatically bring the vehicle to a stop while triggering its hazard lights. Once stopped, the car will even activate the Mercedes-Benz emergency call system and unlock its doors for responders. We're going to give Marcus Schaefer's title its own paragraph because it's that long. Schaefer's member of the board of management of Mercedes-Benz AG and chief technology officer responsible for development and procurement spoke to Drive Pilot's recent certification in Nevada. In the modern world, time is one of the most precious commodities, and giving back time to our customers is a core element in our strategy to build the world's most desirable cars. Our Drive Pilot takes a major step forward in achieving that and places us at the very forefront of innovation in the crucially important field of automated driving. Drive Pilot demonstrates once more that our pioneering spirit is part of our DNA. Certification in Nevada marks the start of its international rollout and with it, the dawning of a new era. Looking ahead, Mercedes-Benz has already filed certification documents for SAE Level 3 autonomous driving in California and hopes to receive approval later this year. Drive Pilot will debut in the US markets on the 2024 versions of the S-Class and EQS sedans, with first deliveries expected in the second half of this year.
I figured that was going to be on the EQS.
I mean, that's what the article would be.
Mhm.
That's what the image is for, right?
Right. That's the EQS.
Yeah. But the thing here is, my thing about autonomous driving is that if the whole purpose of autonomous driving is so that you don't have to drive yourself, why would you want a car that is designed in a way that you would drive it yourself?
Here's my thought on that, Mike. I think this is kind of where there's a lot of nuance in all this sort of new automotive paradigm we're going into. I think autonomous vehicles should be for commercial use.
Mhm.
So like those Canoe, or I'm trying to remember the other company that makes like the self-driving buses and stuff like
Oh,
that.
Zooks.
Zooks, right? The one that Amazon bought into.
Mhm.
See, I think a full autonomous, like what we're talking about here, should be for that type of stuff, right? Municipal bus services that do basic routes that have like
Mhm.
a series of stops and all that.
Mhm.
I think that autonomy is good for that. Now, for this type of stuff, if you're doing some highway driving and you want to, and you're just like, let's just say you're on the goddamn 5 highway in California, right? And
Mhm.
you're going to be on a stretch of highway for like 2 to 3 hours, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, set it to autonomy, let it do its thing. You're just doing basically a straight route, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's like where it ends, where it kind of stops. Otherwise, you should be driving the car. That's just my thought. I'm with you on that.
It has a steering wheel for a reason, right? Why would
Right.
you?
Right.
I don't get the logic to that. It doesn't
Yeah.
make a whole lot of sense. Now, e-scooters, like the one in the last article that talked about it having AI with a Qualcomm chip in there. Now that sparks my interest, primarily because having that computer, that OpenCV on there, computer vision, a
Mhm.
camera on the bike that can detect objects ahead and kind of take away the the guesswork from the operator himself, the person who's riding the scooter.
Mhm.
That's pretty interesting. I think the next step beyond that will be some kind of level 3 assistance. Not so much that you take your hands off the handlebars of the e-scooter or the e-bike, but if I schedule an e-bike or e-scooter, some form of micro transportation, and I put in a destination from my house to pizzeria, whatever it is,
Yeah.
and it gives me the best route, and all I have to do is sit on the bike, and the e-bike carries me to the next destination. I don't have to pedal anything, or the e-scooter is basically telling me the best route.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
think that is going to be the next step in micromobility.
That, you know what, man? Oh, I want to tap into that because I agree with you.
Yeah,
I think that's actually the sweet spot right there. You just hop on something and it just takes you,
yeah, like a magic carpet.
right? And then you have what was it, the CV, or what the camera, the lidar and all that stuff, right?
Mhm.
It actually does the real time sort of um gathering of data to danger prevention, let's just say, right?
And
uh right. So I think as strange as it sounds, because
mhm,
here's the thing.
mhm,
When I heard about the new 9bot or Segway scooters, so Xiaomi, 9bot, Segway, that's all the same shit. Those three, it's all the
mhm.
same stuff, right? But when I heard that they were coming with these new scooters that was going to have that, at first I was like, okay, that's overkill, right? That was my first thought. That's overkill. Why you need all that shit for a scooter? This is the stuff that Tesla puts in their cars for a scooter. But then when you kind of add into the mix of what you were just saying, okay, if a person goes to a scooter and just says, okay, I'm going to get this and here's where I'm going, then guess what? You need all that.
Yeah,
All that tech. going to be needed. Yes.
Yeah, if you're talking about Chat GPT or some other AI language based model that says, I need to go from point A to point B, and it's going to give me the best route, and it's going to leverage the distance and how much carbon footprint that it's going to be able to, put out.
Mhm.
How efficient is it going to be? It's doing all this in real time, and it's
Right.
saying, yeah, this is the best route based on how much battery is left.
Hey, Mike, real quick. So let's address a couple things in the chat. So Mr. Me Too says, what about stability? What about the stability aspect of it all? Now, Mr. Me Too, we're talking about self-balancing scooters, right? We're talking about self-balancing that have like a gyroscopic motor in it that balances it. And the easiest way to do that is to use a trike,
Right.
right? Because a trike on its own is going to stand, right? It's gonna stand perpendicular, right? It's gonna stand like from top to bottom. And so what we're talking about here is number one, using a trike that stands on its own, and then number two, with say like a servo-based turning mechanism, not
Mhm.
only can the user turn the handlebars, but if they take their hands off and they just sit on the wheel, there's a servo mechanism that's going to turn the vehicle based on the route that we set in the GPS, right? The routing, Mike,
Right.
just takes you, and it's gonna use these camera and lidar systems and all that to guide the route on the bike path.
Right.
Okay, it's already going to be pre-programmed to ride within the bike paths on that route. So this is not a stretch. It really isn't. You
And
just
you're
have to have the right vehicle.
and you're kind of silently integrating it, right? The user doesn't really need to know that this is happening. The user just needs to know that this bike functions or this vehicle functions in that fashion. Like they don't need to know all the intricate details to it, right? If
No.
I if I book an e-scooter and I put my destination and whatnot, and I pay my usage fee, it's going to do what it needs to do to take me to the next, point A to point B without me having to think about the next route. I'm doing. I'm just letting the GPS guide me.
It's almost look, it's okay. It's like Uber,
Yeah.
right? You request an Uber,
Mhm.
you put in where you want to go, the Uber driver picks you up, and guess what they do? They take you there.
Yeah.
It's literally the same thing.
Yeah. It's a ride share function,
Right.
but you're adding that level 3 autonomy to an e-scooter that has not been done before.
That has not been to my knowledge. I don't know anything that's out here doing that right now.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, I know it's capable. I know the capabilities there. I just don't know anybody that's literally cleared to do that has that operating right now. One other question Jay Charles asked, what kind he is kind. What kind of profit margin is in the e-scooter business?
These are multi-billion dollar,
I was gonna say there's a lot to that.
yeah.
There's a lot to that. That depends, right? Because you can be guys like us who got it up out the mud, right? We self-funded our way into this. And so we're leveraged and hedged a little bit different. And then you got like the companies like Bolt that just went under. We covered that maybe like 2-3 months ago. Okay. Millions of dollars into that company. A lot of other companies that had millions of dollars sunk into it, not around no more. Kind of depends. Really depends on the market. Depends on a lot of things.
Yep.
We'll leave it there. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. So speaking of SAE, 3 reasons you need to train in automation. Okay. Robotics for Autonomous Vehicle Systems Bootcamp. Train smarter with our 12-week program developed with Clemson University and Argo AI. Convenient skill building, digital learning, hands-on work each week. One-to-one connections to industry autonomous vehicle engineers. SLAM. Simultaneous localization and mapping. Define SLAM and differentiate between several SLAM approaches. Explore different localization algorithms. Implement SLAM for mapping and use the navigation stack in ROS to localize and plan the robot motion. So this is just exactly what we were talking about.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Mechatronics. Describe the sense, think, act framework and its relevance in an autonomous system. Outline basic topology and commands for the robot operating system. Navigation path planning. Discuss the relevant uses and merits of greedy and non-greedy path planning approaches. Okay, we were just talking about this. Use the navigation stack in ROS to extract waypoints for robot motion and implement a pure pursuit controller to navigate through them. Okay. Perception, LiDAR cameras, and vision and visual intelligence. Describe the role of sensing systems in autonomous navigation. Implement lateral control for wall following.
That would literally be operating within that bike lane path, right? Sensing the width of the lane, making sure that, right? Okay.
Open CV to implement a line follower. So basically the CV is how
right there
you have, the path navigation. So you're talking about most cars, passenger cars that have cameras on them use that function for collision sensing.
Right.
For collision sensing. Machine learning. Explain basic machine learning concepts. Understand the difference between traditional perception and ML. Implement a ROS wrapper around trained models to detect and classify objects using Keras. Capstone project. Implement Turtlebot Burger exercises that test skills in working with LiDAR and camera data. Object detection using pre-trained neural networks. Generating maps and localizing within the environment, planning and control. Okay. This is a micro credential, so you can enroll in this. It's a 12-week boot camp. It's a 12-week boot camp, and all the stuff that we kind of covered tonight is encapsulated in these programs.
You see, I need that because I'm doing the hybrid and EV master mechanic certification. I want to stack this with that.
The boot camp accomplished exactly what I set out for. After completing all the lectures and the assignments, I don't know why it does that.
There it goes.
On assignments cap with the group capstone project, it gave me a very good overall understanding of robotics topics that enables me to start contributing to my job the right way. Bootcamp participant. This pilot provided a useful introduction to the basics of mobile robotics, aided by a strong set of hands-on coding challenges. I would recommend this course as a bridge to engineers who are ready to jump from academia to the professional world. So this is the sort of stuff that we've been covering on the Brain Trust for a few years now, and I think that we're at this point, this intersecting point where we start going from theory, start going to the
application, dude.
To the application aspect of it.
Yep.
The stuff that we were talking about, micro transportation in terms of having a e-scooter or e-bike kind of ride you to your destination in a ride share function.
They thought, Mike, they thought that the ideas were crazy at the time, right? Yeah. And then now we're here we are, 2023, right? We're literally waist deep in micromobility, right? We do operate currently, for those of y'all listening, we operate literally based on municipal contract where I'm at right now, and what we're looking to do is expand into other markets, but we're operating on the base level of it. What we're talking about is the more sophisticated levels of micromobility, and we want to be at the forefront of this stuff. Okay, because look, 2 years ago, the stuff that we were just talking, that would have even been crazy to me, and I was in micromobility at the time. Today, if you listen to this live stream, you could totally see the use case for it. You could totally see it. So it's like, if it sounds crazy for full-size electric cars, just understand that there's more of a solid use case for it on the micro scale first.
Mm-hmm.
It really is.
You want to drop the link in the chat? Have people come up?
Yeah. Let me drop it right now.
Yeah.
Let me go check up on my little one here. Make sure she goes and gets in the bath here. Okay, we just went and posted a link. I'm gonna step aside for just a second. Let me go check on my little one. Let me have her go get in the bath and stuff. I'll be right back. All right, Mike, I'm back.
Yeah.
So yeah, if anybody wants to join us here, there's the link in the chat. But yeah, I think that's a heavy proposition right there. Right? Like self-driving scooters, you just hop on a device and then boom, it just takes you.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the I don't know how, what, I mean, it's difficult to get a passenger vehicle to get approval, but I think in places like Africa, and also want to add this as well, that allowing, we talk about building Black communities, rebuilding Black communities. How would you do this? How would you do that to improve the community? The way you bring investment and you bring fourth industrialization into it is you start allowing the environment to be a test bed, a sandbox for these sort of technologies, right?
Yeah.
Autonomous vehicles and infrastructure like such as bike lanes and stuff like that. A lot of people look at it and they'll push back and say, "Oh, this is gentrification. They're going to move us out of this community." But in reality, you gotta look at it from the alternative and say, "Okay, how do I leverage this environment to to the advantage of everyone else? How do we collectivize this, right?"
Well, okay. That would be okay. That's an interesting deduction, right? To say that, right? Because, okay, technology is race agnostic for the most part. It's all about application. Who's deploying, right? Like, okay, we don't take the time to talk about guerrilla farming, right? Repurposing buildings, utilizing micromobility to own your transportation routes, so to speak, right? We don't talk about all these things just be, as pie in the sky type ideas, right? These are actually things that are being utilized right now. Okay, so I think the best way to go about, say, terraforming and redeveloping communities is to use this stuff. And like I said, it's agnostic to race. All types of people use electric scooters and shit. Okay.
But what I'm saying here is the technology as a whole, right? If we're talking about like what what NASA did with HBCUs, how do we drive that level
right
of investment? How do we create those sort of ecosystems, right? And so if we want more Black people to be a part of autonomous vehicle development because there's so much underrepresentation, then the quickest way to do it is to bring that industry to the community itself.
Yes.
Right. And you do that by creating sandboxes in Black neighborhoods. Like, I don't think it's a wise idea to test an autonomous vehicle with potholes and lack of traffic. You
No,
know, you know. So
no,
you want that investment to be in that community so that they can pave the road, so that you can build crosswalks, so that you can have working traffic lights, so that you
right,
can have what do you call it, bike lanes and so on and so forth. But at the same time, you're also a part of that development process of validating autonomous vehicle development. You're at the forefront of it. And so you get that representation, you also get that investment, is what
right.
I was basically getting to. And
No,
so
you're absolutely right, and that's why those startups and stuff, they need to be homegrown in the communities, and those startups, those companies need to be getting the contracts to roll the stuff out in said communities, right? It's
mhm,
all contained, right?
yeah.
And it's there's an infrastructure, there's a system to it. We laid it out, right, because it starts at, say, like the ground level with the kids, the maker labs, repurposing the the recreational centers that have, like, the ping pong tables in a room, right, and all that shit just is so not being used, right? May as well put the 3D printers and the 3D scanners and all that shit. Put that shit in there.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
that's it's kind of an overhaul too, because you're talking about building out new electrical infrastructure and stuff like that, 220-volt and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
I get what you're saying, but I also
Yeah,
think
I mean,
that
just saying,
football
it's like,
fields are kind of underutilized as well.
right, right.
Football fields can cost anywhere between $1 to $10 million for a field,
Hmm.
and a lot of times those are very underutilized environments, primarily because um, football season it only happens a few months out of the year, and the rest of it is kind of underutilized.
It's
And
just
so
literally sitting there.
yeah, it's really sitting there. It gets beat up because dirt bikes and stuff like that get ran through it. I think that point that I'm making here is that now you start talking about autonomous drones, UAVs, uh, other sort of drone project. I think battle bots and stuff like that could be better utilized in some of these environments outdoors. And so I think there's room to actually create this sort of ecosystem. It's something I got to sit down probably this week or some other time and really delve into how do we get that representation in there, because NASA gave $11.5 million, $11.9 million to 6 different universities to split up and say,
Right,
this is what you have, make it work.
right. And we get a plan needs to you got to come up with a plan to harness that $11 million investment, because that may seem like a small number. However, when we kind of went through that primer and what we were looking at in terms of, like, the appropriation of the funds to each university
Mhm,
and the role that they wanted the development of these data scientists to pursue, for example,
mhm.
I was just like, okay, well, outside of, say, some computers and the software, where is the extraneous cost coming from, right? So I think the money is sufficient to get the knowledge to the people to do the task, right?
Yeah,
Which then leads into industry, right? Outside of academia.
because now that they've done the work for NASA, they might as well go work for NASA.
Thank you. Or contract.
Well, I think the goal is to drive that pipeline, right? Because they're already a
Or
part of that.
NASA wants the talent themselves.
Right, they're
Okay,
cultivating on the outside
got
so
it,
that they come in,
got it.
right when they're
Right.
completed. And so, um, no, I think there's a lot of opportunity that's coming out of these articles that's showing that uh, there's different venues of how you approach things. NASA has one way. I think the Department of Energy also has a similar program like NASA with the
Hmm.
HBCUs, but HBCUs are at the college level. Well, what happens when you start talking about the high school level? Well, what happens when you start talking about the middle school, and then you
Hmm.
go to elementary? And the ecosystem has to be built
I was gonna say
from the
that's like the most crucial part, right?
yeah,
Like
because you
like
have to
who's
get that.
who makes their way up into the HBCU programs, right?
Mhm.
Who Okay, how do we matriculate people with to have that interest when they get up into the HBCUs?
Right.
Doesn't it start down at the levels that you were just talking about? Elementary, junior high, high school?
Right. So you need to go from the cradle first. The investment has to start there first.
Mm-hmm.
And so you start talking about what do you call it? What are those schools? It starts with an M.
What the
Mass
what type of school? What type of school?
I'm forgetting this, man.
Like a technical school or something?
No, the school that the Montessori.
Oh, like a Montessori.
Yeah, so the Montessori style schools.
Oh shit! That dude,
right?
that's the ticket.
Right.
You covered that shit already.
Yeah, and so different components can make up this pipeline. But I'm saying the pipeline can't start from HBCUs. It has to go before that. How did they get to the HBCU point? What kind of schooling did they have before? What kind of environment did they have before? And so when people talk about rebuilding Black communities and stuff like that, you have to look at one. Fourth industrialization is not going anywhere. That's gonna be here for the next 20 years.
That's the new industrial and technological presence.
Yeah, it's going to be here for the next 20,
it's not going
25 to
anywhere.
30 years. That's not going to go
Right.
anywhere. The question is, how do you cultivate that talent pool that was supposedly missing, that's underrepresented now? How do you cultivate it so that you have that representation? And so,
Okay, yeah, you do go to some sort of institution that's Montessori type, right?
yeah.
Because that's at the 3, 4, 5, 6, right, year old. That's getting them in at that age, right?
Mhm.
Because think about it, right? How you don't go into college with the thought or the idea of pursuing data science unless it was something groomed into you early on. I have a hard time believing that you were like just the jock of all jocks, or you you know what I'm saying. You did nothing in the realm of any sort of deep sort of science pursuit, and then you get into college and all of a sudden you want to be a data scientist. I have a hard time believing that. I think that type of desire to learn or to pursue that type of profession, that's groomed within you. That's my thought.
Actually, I forgot to do this one article here. Let me
Yeah,
finish
go ahead and pull it up.
Yeah.
And this comment said, Jay Cameron, he said, this gets into the talk that I have with my friends about the K through PhD pipeline. There you go.
Yeah. Speaking of the youth, this is from The Guardian. Pennsylvania boy 9 becomes one of the youngest ever high school graduates. David Balogun, who loves science and computer programming, receives diploma after taking remote classes.
Huh.
A 9-year-old boy from Pennsylvania who loves science and computer programming has become one of the youngest ever high school graduates, and he has already started accumulating some credits towards his college degree.
Wow.
David Balogun recently received a diploma from Reach Cyber Charter School based in the state's capital of Harrisburg after taking classes remotely from his family home in Philadelphia suburb of Bensalem. The local television station reports. The achievement marks David one of the youngest known children to ever graduate high school, according to the list compiled by the History of Culture website. The only person on that list younger than David is Michael Keenery, who still holds the Guinness World Record of youngest high school graduates that he set when he was 6 in 1990.
Yo.
Before obtaining a master's degree at 14 and 18, and then winning more than $1 million on game shows. David would come in higher on that list than the Pulitzer Prize winning journalist Ronan Farrow, who was 11 when he finished high school. David
Wow.
told WGAL that he already knows what he wants to dedicate his professional life to once he completes his education. Quote, I want to be an astrophysicist and I want to study black holes and supernovas, he said to the station. David's parents both have advanced academic degrees, but they told WGAL that it is challenging to raise a child with such extraordinary intellect. Quote, I had to get outside of the box, David's mother, Rania, said to the outlet. Playing pillow fights when you're not supposed to, throwing the balls in the house. He's a 9-year-old with a brain that is the capacity to understand and comprehend a lot of concepts beyond his years and sometimes beyond my understanding.
He has sapiosexual parents.
David told WGAL that some of his favorite teachers helped keep him engaged with his studies and push him to keep progressing. Quote, they didn't bog me down, he said. They advocated for me, saying he can do this, he can do that. One instructor said to WGAL, quote, we're just proud that we were able to individualize his instruction. David's teachers also said that they learned from the uncommonly bright pupil whose loved ones describe him as a computer programming and science whiz. His science teacher, Cody Dare, remarked, David was an inspirational kid, definitely one who challenges the way you think about teaching. David, a member of the High Intelligence Quoting Society, Mensa, has done one semester at Bucks County Community College since graduating from Reach Charter. Meanwhile, he and his family have been doing their research into other colleges and universities to try to find one that is best suited for a boy who, besides his academics, is pursuing a martial arts black belt, enjoys other sports,
shit.
and plays the piano.
This dude's gonna be fucking dangerous.
Probably the next Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yo.
Am I going to throw my 9-year-old into Harvard while I'm living in Pennsylvania? David's father, Henry, said one of the family college search. No. Unless perhaps it's the right fit.
Yo.
This young black boy.
I'll tell you right now, man, if I had a son, dude, I'm telling you, he'd be just as dangerous, yo.
Man, listen.
Wow.
This dude. Well, wait a second. Whoa.
Uh-oh, what?
The matriarchy, the gynocracy.
I knew you were going to go there.
The matriarchy, the gynocracy. What's really going on here?
Oh, God.
What's going on here? I thought the matriarchy and the gynocracy is holding these boys back. What happened?
Well, I don't know, Mike. Maybe this new whole Manosphere 3.0 paradigm parroted by BGS will explain it to us.
Yeah.
Maybe, huh?
Unbelievable, man. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I mean, he has to be one of the smartest black boys. I mean, we covered an article about maybe 2 years ago during the pandemic.
The kid that graduated from Montessori, he was like, what is it? I forgot how old he was. And he had already gotten like high school credits and shit. And he was just getting out of 6th grade.
He was 13?
Yeah, he was like 13 or something.
Yeah, he was a
he had already finished high school or some shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Mr. Me Too says he does have both parents, it seems. Yeah. Imagine that. And both of them are smarty pants. Per the article that Mike just read.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this guy can run circles around the manosphere. I mean, literally run circles around the manosphere.
Yo.
I can't think of what I was doing when I was 9 years old, man. I know I was playing with RC cars and stuff.
We was doing
like that.
RC cars and shit. Nah, but this cat right here, he's on another level, bro. Like what we were doing at our age was high level shit, but what this kid did, what he's doing at 9, dude, that's crazy. That's crazy.
I think one of the other factors here is that he has access to technologies that we didn't have.
Yeah.
At least I didn't have. I didn't have, high speed internet and gaming and stuff like. I didn't. We didn't have that sort of technology.
No.
I mean, the closest thing that you probably had. I mean, back then you had not Windows.
But you had like Prodigy and America Online. It was all dial-up shit, dude.
But you had
128.
but you had in 1990. Well, when I was his age, let's say 9, right? That's the 80s, right? So you're talking about DOS.
Yeah.
You didn't have like a graphic user interface and stuff like that. So
No.
I think he fits right within the paradigm where the technology has shifted.
But he's right on time. He's
Yeah.
right on time. He's right on time. This stuff is not. It's not difficult. Number one, for him to pick up, and number two, it's easy. It's so easy for him to understand it that he can manipulate it.
Yeah. Unreal, man. I just
Wow.
I meant to read this the first article. I don't know why it wasn't on the list, but
No,
I had it.
I'm glad we hit this one before we close out, man.
Wow, man.
Shit.
I mean,
What's
this
his
dude
name
wants,
again? What's his name again?
his name is David Balogun.
Remember that name, folks.
I'm always the type of guy, man, that wants to like take all those sort of young black boys and just like all these sort of intellectual, these geniuses, and
Yep.
just stick them in a room and just let them figure things out for themselves.
Yep. Just give him some shit.
Yeah.
Just say, hey, do something with that, man. Show me what you come up with. Right? Like, for real. Yeah, you see the comment from Ryo there. Yeah, using the information age to his advantage. Goddamn right. Damn right. Mr. Me Too, you say Charles Xavier. Yeah, man. Way too much talent. Way too much talent. Way too much potential to be wasted on gender war and gynocracy talk.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Way too much, man.
No, it's just like you hear some people in here say these things like, "Oh, man, somebody's holding them back." What are you talking about, man? Where are you getting this from?
If you just leave it uncapped, bro, potential is potential. If left uncapped, it's
Yeah.
going to express itself, right? As soon as you start putting caps and limits and circumstances and this and that on it, you limit its capability, you limit its function, you limit what it's capable of doing, man. It's bullshit.
Yeah. But he is coming up in an environment where his capabilities are going to be well received. When I was his age, that was not well received. We spent a lot of time dodging obstacles in the environment that we should not have had to. We should not have had to dodge.
Mm-hmm.
And I think cannabis, his opening verse on Fantastic Four is befitting to this.
Man, I forgot that joint on the Clue tape.
Yeah.
Done, but you're a clue. Who the hell wanna battle? The ill mathematical. My motherfucking brain is IBM compatible.
Who the hell wants to battle the ill mathematical? My motherfucking brain is IBM compatible.
Yo,
That fits. That's so befitting for somebody like him.
that's Neuralink before Neuralink.
I don't know if you can get any younger than that, man. 9 years old. I don't know, man.
Damn.
And plus, how do you send a child to school, like to college, man, on a college campus without any supervision? I kind of understand where the father's coming from. So
Yeah, remote learning like a mug, right?
yeah. Well, I mean, he also needs to interact with people in order to be functional.
Yeah.
You can only do that for so long. Did you drop the link in the chat? No.
No, I dropped the link, bro. We
Okay.
just posted, man.
Yeah. No, it's where's all these people at who stood up here and said that, you guys are just playing with micro machines and you don't know what you're talking about. There's no industry here. The Bilderberg, the World Economic Forum, the Illuminati, right? George Soros.
Oh man.
Yeah. So I just, this autonomous driving, we covered that, and I think that SAE program is going to be really dope if you decide to take it. It's only 12 weeks. Most people spend more time talking about the gynocracy than they do with that boot camp like that.
They put in a way more than a solid 12 talking about that shit. Yeah. Yo, GC, what up, man?
Hey, what up?
Hey, what's going on, bro? Welcome, man. How you doing?
Pretty good, brothers.
All right.
What you got on it?
So yeah, I wanted to talk about autonomous robotic vehicles.
Awesome. Go ahead, man.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I mean, definitely, we're making a lot of strides, more so than I thought. I know that it was the early 80s where Reagan was talking about where they had the first wave of neural networks, and he talked about how efficient that will be used in. However, and then, a lot of movies came out with scare tactics against it, like Terminator and things like that, because it was new technology creating computers that thought like humans. But it wasn't until 2006 that it really took off. And that's because the speed of the CPUs really caught up to the capability of that technology. Right. And we were able to do things like deep learning and everything. And yeah, it has moved significant. It hasn't moved as fast as anticipated by society when it started in the early 80s. However, recently it has made strides. I don't know how long we are from having, self-driving cars as a legal standard here in the US, but I do know, and we're probably way off because here in the US we red tape a lot of things, unlike other countries. But I do know that once that happens, there will be a definite problem with industry. Truck driving. There's a lot of money being made in transportation, and that's being circulated as a result of that. It will cause a definite economic downfall, in my opinion, for the U.S.
Well, no, I'll say it like this. It's a fundamental shakeup. I think right now what's legal is level 3. Mike, am I getting that wrong? Level 3? I don't think level 5 can be deployed over interstate highways. Right? I think what is legal is level 3. And level 3 is basically self-driving. Level 5 is when you get into something that doesn't even have a steering wheel. Like you just get into it, right? And the car's just going to take you. So we're not there. Right. But level 3 is like kind of like the legal sort of plateau that we're at right now with regards to the EV thing. That also falls in line with the trucking and all that kind of stuff, right? So you got like Rivian, eating up a lot of a lot of Amazon contracts, getting their electric vans into the fleets, stuff like that, right? Those vans intrinsically will have self-driving capabilities already embedded within them, even though there's drivers there, right? But we're kind of seeing how this is rolling into industry. Mike and I, we were just talking about the viability on a micromobility level, right? You pull out the app for your favorite e-scooter ride share service or whatever, right? There's a scooter maybe like 300 yards from you, and what you're going to do is summon it and then put in your destination. That scooter is going to make its way to you based on the geolocation on your phone. You're going to get on it, and then it's going to take you to the location that you put in terms of your destination, right? So we're talking about autonomous functions on a micromobility level, right? So I think we're at the precipice now of seeing it on all levels, because we had just covered in one of those articles here where Segway 9bot, right? They're going to be deploying scooters for Mike, was it Lyft? One of the companies. They're going to be deploying it for Lyft. That's going to have all of like the LiDAR and the CV capabilities and all that stuff already embedded in the scooter. So they're bringing out machinery that already has the ability to do the scanning and the geo mapping and all that kind of stuff. And the only thing that is kind of keeping it from being fully autonomous is it being a vehicle that stands on its own. That's why I was mentioning to Mr. Me Too. I was like, well, what it'll be is it'll be like a trike, right? Something that stands on its own, and then that has a servo-based steering mechanism, right? That can just be guided through like a self-driving, a self-driving function, right? That based on the route, it's going to basically turn where it needs to turn and get to where it needs to go. You get on it, and it's going to take you where you need to go. So I think we'll see autonomy on a micromobility level pretty damn soon here, right? Like, not even talking about electric cars and all that kind of shit, because we're already seen that stuff can do it. But see, micromobility is going to be more accessible to people than, say, like Teslas and all that kind of shit. Not the average person can afford a Tesla or has access to a Tesla, but on a micromobility level, man, watch. They already have the vehicles, they already have the vehicles that can do it.
Well, time will tell. I'm not as optimistic, but time will tell.
Well, no, I'm not speaking from an this is an optimism, right? Like the position that I'm.
No, I get it. It's fact based. I mean, your prediction is based on your research and things like that.
Yeah.
So is mine. I think that'll be a lot later.
I hope so. You know what I mean? I hope so, because to kind of in quick order, just to go to a paradigm where people were literally functioning vehicles and doing things on their own, to going like I'm saying in a swift amount of time, going to a paradigm where essentially you just go to something, sit in it, and it just takes you. That's kind of like a sad. That's kind of like a sad testament to where humanity's kind of gone, right? This level of sort of laziness in some respects, in some regards. There's a gray area there. I'm kind of with you on it, where I'm intrigued by the capabilities of the technology. At the same time, I'm troubled by humans kind of getting to a lazy point, I guess you can say. It's a weird kind of thing, man. It's a bit of a gray area.
No, I get you.
Yeah,
I get you. We seek comfort, we create, and then the next generation enjoys the comfort of the previous generation's creation, and it causes laziness. I understand that.
yeah. Let's go, Ryle.
Peace, everybody. So the man just wanted to I was wanted to kind of piggyback off what Mike was talking about. I, people have heard me talk about this before, but for people who haven't, I've been talking about in the space for shit, really since I've been here, that black people, as it relates to the story about the young black boy, are going to really have to start thinking outside of the box when it comes to the education of black boys specifically, because um, a lot of people have this mentality that there's not options for black boys, especially when you start getting to the high school level, and that's not really true because you can do programs like joint enrollment programs. Because when I was in high school, I knew homeboys that would do joint enrollment programs. They would go to school parts of the day in the morning, and then they would leave out for their trade programs, and then come back and in the afternoon. Like I knew a couple of homies who basically did that, and then they took over their father's one of their father's business. I forgot what it was. It was, I don't know, HVAC or something like that. So, but uh, education in terms of children is really being turned upside down for the simple fact that the present educational setup in the United States is geared towards the industrial age. It's not geared towards the information innovation age. And so parents, especially parents of black boys, are going to have to take more of the initiative in helping their sons really kind of transition, because a lot of this public education is not really geared towards boys in a way to really challenge them. And you're going to have to take more of that initiative. One of the saddest things that I've seen is my fiance had got a scholarship from her college, and I mean, this was sad, man. We went to because um, it's this light company here that made it available for adults to get a scholarship for college. So she happened to just apply for it and she got it. And so um, what happened was most of the other scholarships were for high schoolers. And we noticed that when we went to the ceremony, when all of these kids were getting up, I mean, kids who had scholarships to MIT and Stanford and John Hopkins and all these, I mean, top schools in the country, we noticed that there was not one black boy in the crowd, not one.
Let me ask you something. Do you know of any scholarships that are solely for black boys and young men?
Well, these scholarships were academic scholarships. So these
Well, once
scholarships.
again, okay, so like they have scholarships that are for certain demographics of people. What I'm asking is, do you know of any scholarship that I mean, I know that there exist scholarships like United Negro College Fund and stuff that are for black people, but I mean, do you know of any that are for black boys only?
Like, are you talking like for tech centric, or is it just black boys in general?
Well, any, even if it's athletic, but those tend to be multiracial.
No, I mean, if you're asking me, I have not specifically, not that I know of.
No.
So why do we think that is?
Well, that's not the point that I was making. The point that I was making.
No, I'm making a separate point.
Okay, but the point that I was making was that in terms of merit and achievement, there were not any black boys who had actually been that were in a part of that particular program in terms of the scholarships that were made available who had obtained those, because they were based on merit. And to me, that was disconcerting, because when they went up to talk about the fields that they were going to be majoring in, I mean, they went to molecular biology to computer science, I mean, you were talking. I mean, these young kids were talking about like high level degrees, like not liberal arts type stuff. I'm talking about like high level degrees that they were going to be pursuing. And even my shorty was just like, this is really, really sad. Like even she took it to heart. Like she was like, where are the black boys? Black boys should be here too. And when we talk about, obviously we know the reading, the low level reading aspect in the group. And see, this is where, it's important for the business class of Black America, especially with us. It's important for us to be successful in business because when a young boy that Mike V was reading about earlier comes on the scene, there needs to be scholarship money out there that we can put forth ourselves, so that when he's looking to go to a school and he sees scholarships that are tailored toward his demographic specifically, he needs to be able to get that money, because scholarship money allows students to, instead of having to work a BS job in college, they can instead get an internship in a company that facilitates them getting into the industry that they want to. Many times, a lot of white students are able to get those internships not because they're smarter, but because their parents have the money, or they get scholarships that allow them to not have to work BS jobs, so they can actually get into these internships that really can set you up for success long term. I mean, when I was in college, I did an internship. I did an internship at the governor's office. And I made some really good connections there. So this is going to be something that's really important for the Black business class as it relates to Black boys and girls too, who are really high achievers in school. Us having money that we put up for them, so that when they need scholarship money to be able to, like I said, get access to these internships, they can do that, and they don't have to pick between an internship and working a job, because their home environment, they just don't have the money, and they shouldn't have to suffer because they just don't have it. They should be rewarded in a way that facilitates their development overall in their overall professional career.
Well, according to this list, this is 25 great scholarships for young Black men. So I knew the Congressional Black Caucus had one. I didn't know that there was more than just one. And so, I mean, just looking through it, it doesn't seem all that. It doesn't seem all that far-fetched that there are scholarships out there for young Black males.
That's good, and I'm glad that they exist and that that they are receiving these scholarships.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, because that I know it's not you that said it, but there was some other content creators in the space who said, "Oh, I couldn't find any scholarships for young Black males." I don't know, man. I know NSBE. I think they had a scholarship program at one point too. I haven't looked back there in a few years, but
I was in NSBE, but it was for men and women.
Yeah, it's kind of interchangeable.
Boys and girls.
Yeah, it's kind of interchangeable. So I mean, it can go either way. It can go either way, and so I always find that interesting that there's always a question about whether or not there's going to be a scholarship for Black boys. But I know that A2 Men, I know they have a scholarship program in their program out there in California at Compton College, if I remember correctly. Let me see if I can pull up their website.
I'm not familiar with that college.
Compton College?
Oh, okay. Compton College is a junior college in Compton?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull it up real quick.
And you also have scholarships like the Ronald E. McNair Scholarship as well.
We covered that one too.
Yeah. So.
Let me see if I can cover it here real quick.
Rael, would you say that Black boys are undermotivated?
would say that I think for me it's more environment than anything else. Once you get black boys around the right environment, they because even I think it was Jawanza Kunjufu, I think his name was. He covered this years ago. He was talking about how up until the third grade, black boys are actually outperforming all kids in testing, and then it gets to the third grade and it gets to a downhill aspect. But I don't think it's a lack of motivation. I think it's the environment that contributes to a mindset that makes education seem like it's. I mean, we've had these conversations in this space, man. With the educated lames amongst adults. So this idea of being intelligent is something to not really
champion,
because when I was in college, I knew some people who were actually volunteering with young teenagers, and one of the black teenagers, he was 17 years old, and he said that. Now this was like 2004 or 5, and he said that in his opinion, we live in an age of mediocrity, and it was so funny when the guy said that's what he said. We all laughed because it was a 17-year-old making this assessment, and he said, for him, he said when he's around certain types of people, and he was talking about black people, he said he would play down his intelligence. He was getting straight A's, but when he would get around certain people, he would play down his intelligence to basically to kind of fit in and just go along to get along, because he knew at that age like it could be some problems coming from other black people in terms of him demonstrating his intelligence, which I thought was pretty sad because it was saying pretty much that the environment creates this tension amongst black males to not perform because the environment that they're coming from a lot of times does not celebrate and appreciate them achieving on a scholastic type of level.
I would say that.
Why is it that black girls who are in the same environment as her brother don't seem to have that issue?
Because they celebrate it. That's why.
So wait a minute. You're telling me that in the same house,
mm-hmm.
they're celebrating academic achievements amongst girls and not boys?
Well, I was for me, because I didn't grow up around it, because I grew up I didn't grow up with my mother like that, but I had a mother who was very, very, very much into reading. So I got that love for reading from her, and she had me reading, when I was 2. So she kept books in front of me, and then I had, my great aunt. She was an educator for about, I think, 40 years. My great grandmother, they didn't even let me watch a lot of cartoons like that. I mean, it was always like I was watching PBS and stuff like that when I was young. So they kind of fostered that development in me. I took it for granted because I just assumed that everybody else's family was like that. But when I would talk to a lot of my homies throughout the years, a lot of my homies didn't have a love for reading like that. And then when we got to talking about it, I would see where it would come from. It wasn't really pushed like that. It wasn't really pushed like that.
No, and I think Joseph C. Phillips kind of talks about that in his book. He talks like a white boy, like I have posted on the screen. If anybody hasn't read this book before, it's actually a really good read. He really talks about a lot of the stuff that in the ministry that you talk about today. He was talking about that in his book 20 years ago. And so I think that, to your question, Game Changer, it really is not promoted. I mean, it might be promoted now, but it wasn't promoted when I was younger. And I think that we have not facilitated an environment that would provide that aided, that soup to nuts support for Black boys. And I think that's why you see a lot more waywardness amongst Black males when it comes to academia. I think the dropout rate is something like 75% during COVID for Black males.
Wow.
Some significant, significant areas in a lot of urban areas. Baltimore, Philadelphia, dropout rate's massive for black males. And so, and it's the same thing in college too. In college, it's the same exact way. Black males in STEM usually don't get out of their first, second year. They usually switch majors. And so it's a lack of a support base. And that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. I had that support base that encouraged me to, be curious. That's why to this very day I watch PBS. It's a lot of stuff that I will go in there and watch. Because my mind is always curious. I'm always, my curiosity is always being sparked. So, that's something that, it really is environmental. Like, even though I had my mom who was a reader, she fostered that too, along with my great grandmother and my great aunts too. So that environment really, and typically, like in societies, like, in different groups, typically, if you get read a bedtime story, typically it's going to be your mother reading you a bedtime story. So you don't have that kind of mindset in the group like that. You know what I'm saying? So, you really have to take that into consideration. Like, because like I said, once you get black boys in the right environment, that curiosity does come out. It does tend to come out.
You're saying that not your environment, but the environment for most, in order for one gender to academically achieve and another to not academically achieve, the mothers would have to be reading to the daughters and not the sons.
No, I'm saying that the fostering of reading in general typically would come from mothers, because typically mothers are the first teachers of children. So in a scenario where a mother has both twins, a son and a daughter, the son drops out and the daughter is, magna cum laude. When I was in college, we studied this in some of my Black Studies classes, how it was this notion, I think this one Black woman put forth, that mothers love their sons and raise their daughters. So the battery gets put in their back in terms of the daughters to be educated, and this has been going on for decades. So
there's a social system. There's a social network in place for girls. That's just
exactly.
That's just what it is. I think you're starting to see more development for Black boys. I know this is out in Oakland. The Hidden Genius Project is really popular now for Black boys, and so getting them into tech and STEM. And so,
wait, the what project?
The Hidden Genius Project in Oakland.
Yeah,
because they also have Black Girls Code out here too.
Yeah,
well, Black Girls Code has Black boys in it now too.
Yeah, Robert F. Smith, who gave all that money to the graduating class of Morehouse, he has a project as well for not only Black boys, but also Hispanic boys to get into, to become interested in STEM as well.
Yeah. I contributed to the Hidden Genius Project about a year or so ago, but I think this is a really good platform for launching across the country. So we'll see how it works. I know Micron is working on a project too with the brother from Micron, who's a PhD himself. I forget the name of that project that they're working on.
Yeah. And actually, the Jizza from Wu-Tang, he has a collaboration with a guy from, I forget what college it is. It might be MIT, but it's something. If it's not MIT, it's somewhere else. But using rap to get kids, whether boys and girls, Black, interested in the science field as well. So
yeah. Unless Game Changer has a alternative strategy to going about this.
You're talking about alternative to programs like Hidden Genius and things like that?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely not. No, I think that programs like this is necessary. I grew up with programs like this.
Yeah.
So, I was in Mesa, I was in Project Yes, I was in Math Olympics and all that good stuff. So no, I do
Project,
understand the value and the necessity of such programs.
Yeah. No, definitely. I just think that more discussion needs to be had around it. I know the commission to study black men and study the status of black men and boys. I know they're having these discussions actively right now. I think they're having it like 2 or 3 times a year, bringing on subject matter experts to figure out how to bring funding to these sort of initiatives. And so I know they just got what was it, $5 million in the last package that went out last month. So I'm glad they got that. They were able to get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, now that I know of his existence, I will be donating. So that's actually a great takeaway from the stream.
Yeah. And then we also got to keep in mind too, like one of the most under talked about issues that we are seeing that is contributing to this as well is that you can't avoid, not that people are trying to, but a lot of people just are not thinking about it like that. You can't avoid the black boys who are coming up in state wards, you know, in group home settings. Many of them, you know, they're not really being, you know, pushed in that kind of direction like that. They're just really there, you know, state is just doing what, you know, a lot of times the state does. The state only has but so many resources. So for a lot of us who, you know, feel that this is an issue, they are going to definitely, you know, because I mean, obviously, you know, they don't have family like that. So you're talking about, you know, programs that, you know, we can create, you know, that can actually try to address some of those, you know, young brothers in those situations, because a lot of times, you know, they age out of foster care and they don't have there's no plan, there's no direction, you know. I mean, I've talked to some of the cats in the space who've been in those situations, and you know, they went to the military, but you know, a lot of times, man, there's just nothing left for them. It's just like, okay, you're 18, all right, figure it out, you know. And there's no course of action, there's no plan. Hey, you can go over here and apply for college over here, you can do this, you can do that, you know. So you know, I think, you know, creating some programs from a nonprofit perspective can really try to help address some of that lack of reading that we see in a lot of young black males, because there's a lot of young black males in the system. So we have to keep that in mind too.
Yeah, true. And I know that can affect literacy in different ways. Also, just the way that there's no real transition, because, you know, let's face it, the average 18-year-old, gifted or not, is not ready for adulthood just from the economic setting that we live in modern times. No. So there are a few trade jobs waiting for an 18-year-old young man that can pay, you know, these new rent increases. So yeah, the military or Job Corps and things like that, you know, do work as a bridge, but it doesn't really help everybody. I knew a young man whose parents kicked him. So what's interesting is that parents tend to, especially parents who are a part of the system or in the system or just spiteful, tend to kick their 18-year-old out, even if he hasn't completed a senior year, meaning he turned 18, you know, say in December, and he graduates in June. You know, they don't care. And the person that this happened to, he was gifted because he was part of a program that I was volunteering through or working at. And yeah, so that is definitely a problem. Fortunately for him, he stayed with the parents or friends, but nevertheless, there are those who are not so lucky.
Yeah.
Well,
especially because go for it.
I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish, bro.
No, we have a system now in existence that really are paying women, you know, to have children, and Black women are taking advantage of it in a disproportionate rate now. So once it becomes a business, rearing your own children, you're basically paid to babysit your own children. Once that mindset kicks in, you know, you look at your son and daughter, but more your son, as a asset liability, you know, from a business standpoint, asset or liability. And unfortunately, when he turns 18, he becomes a liability and not an asset. So you kick him out on his asset.
Well, you know, I was going to say to that, man, you know, and, you know, I I didn't come from that type of situation, right? But to kind of give sort of maybe say like my experience on it, in terms of like my dad, right, would have like, let's just say, very heavy suggestions on what it is that I should do, right? And there was a presence that I had there from my dad, right? And that's not to say that I followed everything that he said or what have you, but it was there as like a mechanism to steer me in a certain direction, right? And GC, what you're talking about is that people who don't have that mechanism there.
And
Right.
that's what you were saying.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if the young dude actually had a dad in the house or something like that, or maybe a stepdad or something. But
What the young brother that was like 9 years old who graduated?
no, the brother who I was talking about that turned 18 in the senior year.
Oh, okay.
But no, I mean, it definitely is an advantage. So, and I know that people like to criticize the branch of the manosphere that talk about the gynocracy and things like that, but they are heavily intertwined. I mean, there is a correlation between a young boy's success and having a father figure, a natural born father in the home, who's interested.
I think we know that. I think the criticism in the manosphere is that there's more talk about that than there is this. That I think that's what the criticism is, because see, you can go back years in the manosphere, right? You just go to BGS Idmore's channel, for example, right? This has been an ongoing theme since he's had his goddamn channel. There's nothing new under the sun. So it's not as if there's criticism because it's being talked about. It's because it's being talked about so much, and it has been talked about. Like there's only but so much you're gonna uncover, only but so much nuance. People will give it their different spins and all that, but the precepts are basically the same. Okay. You're right. Like it's like you can only hear some shit so many goddamn times, so many different ways before you get a goddamn clue. And then once you got the clue, then what? Right?
Then what?
And that's where the criticism is. It lies in the then what, because it's been talked about for years. Like I said, I can't sit for year upon year upon year upon year and listen to the same goddamn problem and not at some point do something about it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That's the issue.
Right. It's the complex. Hold on, game changer.
Doing something about it. Okay, go
hold
for
on,
it.
game changer. Hold on. It's the difference between Jeffrey Canada and Umar is that Jeffrey Canada made a plan. Jeffrey Canada saw the very deficiencies, some of the very deficiencies that Umar Johnson saw. But the difference was Jeffrey Canada went about it a different way to be successful in creating the schools for Black children that he felt that were needed, to the point that even white people were playing the lottery trying to get in his Harlem zone, I think it's Harlem zone schools. So
I don't think those are actual schools, though. I don't know if they're registered with the state of New York, because I think that's how the process works. I think there might be programs, but I don't think they're official schools.
But what I'm saying is that one decided to do it, go about it a different way and get a more a better result. He was getting funding from Goldman Sachs, all type of stuff. So my point is that when you talk about, when you see, the thing is, and this is how we know we're standing on the right side. When you claim that you have PhDs that you're bringing into space, okay? When you're claiming that you're bringing that type of cachet, then now people like myself, people who have been, either business oriented, been to college, now we're going to look at it and say, okay, well, I know how some of this stuff in college works. A lot of people, a lot of the professors in college, they apply for grants all the time. I knew a lot of, people in college, like, professors who wrote grants and things like that. And so when you're talking about something like Black boys, for example, problems with Black boys, well, if y'all have already exhausted a whole bunch of research on this, then we're going to be looking at you and be like, okay, well, where's the institution that can bring about a change to this particular issue? Because you have a college that you can use as a platform. You have the educational background. So where is the institution that is going to actually address it? Not YouTube and come amongst some dude who ain't really been doing anything, in his own life. Like if you're gonna be a PhD and want us to take you seriously, then we want to see some actual work, not complaining, not some stuff that looks like it's work.
Mhm.
We know tangible when we see tangible as men. I'm a grown man. I know tangible work when I see it. So when we don't see the tangible work, we're gonna be like, okay, are you really serious? Are you playing with us? Because we don't want to be playing. We don't want to see black boys be used as a narrative to advance some loser type dude's life because he hasn't gotten himself together. That's not what we want to see. We want to see, like, if you really do care, we want to see actual tangible results. We want to see real empathy in terms of being built through institutions, because that's what is actually needed.
In defense of Umar, he has been in the school system, and he's probably been the loudest voice in terms of black boys in social development. And I don't think that it was his intention to open up the same kind of program that Jeffrey Canada has. I think they're working from two different sides of the aisle for the same agenda. I think he was more of a principal, and he played a different role in the school system. I know the manosphere only looks at the YouTube aspect of Dr. Umar Johnson, but he has had boots on the ground in terms of really working within the system to kind of correct and challenge a lot of these notions of putting black boys in these SPED programs.
But Mike,
yeah.
Oh no. I'm sorry. Finish, dude. I want to say something to that after you finish.
Yeah, I'm gonna say something too.
Yeah. No, I was just saying that the manosphere gets a bad rap in the manosphere, but in reality, people in Philly and part of the Black Male Education Coalition or the Education Conference out there, BMEC out there in Philly, which is probably the largest in the country. They don't have those same opinions about Umar. It's only on YouTube that he really gets that rap. For whatever reason.
Well, I was going to say, I think, but that therein lies the problem, right? Because he puts himself out there.
Thank you.
To solicit, the capital investment for the school, and that therein lies the crux of the matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
So perfect example. I know he was in Brooklyn a couple weeks ago, and the cops got called on Q Butter because Q Butter was out at the same venue where Umar Johnson is. Now Q Butter has his Ziax Institute. Shout outs to Q Butter, right? Literally got his own science institute and all that stuff, and he's trying to get it to a bigger space and all that. So he's trying to grow out his institution.
Okay.
And there was for Umar. Like, I'm like this, man. If you're trying to be an educator, you're trying to have an education institute and all that, I think you need to be conducting yourself in social media a different way. That's
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Raul. That's my personal opinion on it.
Well, I'm saying that the social media came after the fact, right? So if you go back to Umar 2006, 2007, that's a different Umar Johnson.
Yeah,
right?
I'll give him that. But I'm saying, as present day, how he conducts himself does not help. It doesn't help him to open that institute. Now, Mike, I want to say maybe a year or two ago, we were talking about the fact that he had received an initial like $750,000, right? It was some large sum of money.
Mm-hmm.
And what we were saying was that, okay, with maybe a third of that, he could have started with an online institution, grew the shit out from there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Look, if you were really serious about it, you wouldn't be this King Kong consciousness social media character, as opposed to an educator and an education institution, one who established an educational institution. I'm sorry.
I don't
Well, I
think
mean,
that's his
I don't agree with
intention, though.
buffoonery, but I do feel that when you're trying to spread awareness and gain support to any cause, it's important by any means necessary that you do so. Even if he has to portray something that would probably get more attention to his cause.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate but true.
I disagree. I disagree.
Right quick, Rob, if I may. I think that any movement begins with awareness. If you want to inflict change, and that's true for civil rights, and that's true for the literacy issue of young Black boys. If people aren't aware of the issue, then they're not going to support it.
Yeah, the reason why I disagree was because I've been around conscious educators who were on the same type of stuff in terms of schools, and they went about it a completely different way, and they got the better results. I've been around those types of people.
No, I get it.
Hold on. What I'm saying is, I know people who have traveled to Africa. I know educators in college who have traveled to Africa, talked to the griots, talked to the Babalaos, who literally went over there asking these people, how can we teach Black children better in the United States? They went about it differently, okay? Because they were serious. They weren't looking to be popular. Because see, when you do this type of work, this is really getting it from the mud type work. I know people who have ran for councils, for school councils, who have won, and they talked about how a lot of the Black people will complain about the curriculum, and they said, okay, let's do this charter school thing. Let's try something different. And the very people that complained about the schooling and the curriculum would turn around and be like, well, no, we don't want to try anything new. So I understand, like, it really is some get it from the mud type stuff. But at the same time, when you're talking about educating people's children, that's something that's sacred, man. So you can't give the impression, man, that you're not really serious. And the way that he has approached things from his public persona, he has had opportunities where he even talked about when the conscious stripper stuff came out. He even talked about how he had some money from dudes in the NBA that was ready to put it down, and he couldn't maintain his frame. Okay, and so when you talk about things from that particular perspective, and he was out here talking about when he was dealing with her, he was out here saying he was celibate. He was out here saying, well, Black men, if you're gonna be polygamous, you're gonna have to be with some fat women out here because the sisters need help. And he wasn't even following what he was claiming he was on. So it's a lot of contradictions in that. And when you're talking about doing something like that on that level, especially when you're trying to think about it, you're trying to convince Black people, okay? You're not
going to convince me to send my kid to your school.
I'm
sorry.
No,
I didn't mean to cut you off, bro. Go ahead.
I think
I get what you're saying. I get what the two of you are saying, and trust me, I'm not a fan of Dr. Umar Johnson's, and nor am I saying is his method correct for the situation at hand. What I am saying is that the importance of spreading awareness. I know sometimes that it can seem redundant, boring, or just generally repetitive. That doesn't mean it should be done away with by any stretch of imagination.
No, tell us about it, GC. I mean, we've been going on 5 years with this platform, right?
The
Talking
thing
about
here
all this
is,
boring shit, right?
well, the thing here is, I've actually met Dr. Umar several occasions here locally, and so I know that there's a difference between what is being promoted in social media, because anything can go viral on social media,
right,
versus what is going on the ground. And he's probably the only guy, that I can think of that's actually doing what he's doing in terms of his child psychology. I mean, his track work is
no,
he
gets
all the credit in the world from me on.
I'm saying his track record is impeccable. If you only work from that perspective, then that's the only thing that really matters. Because there's other people out there, look at Kanye. I mean, people are still sending their kids to his school before it got shut down and stuff like that. So regardless of what he was doing. So, we can't just put it all on, what we see on social media, because he's entertaining. That's what he's doing. He's entertaining people. He's playing by the rules of social media, because when he wasn't doing all of that, he wasn't getting any support either. So it doesn't have anything to do with social media, because back in 2009, he wasn't doing any of that. Nobody was giving them any sort of resources.
I mean, I
But
guess
see that,
my,
but see,
he's
but hold on,
trying
but
to
see what I'm
do-
saying. Hold on, but what I'm saying is that the psychology part is great, because when he's going into the schools from that perspective, like he is operating under a certain, he has a license, so he has to operate, and he's confined to a certain type of thing. You're talking about an institution now. You're talking about an institution in terms of a school that you're going to be the head of. So now you're going to face a different type of scrutiny there.
Mhm.
You're going to face a different type of scrutiny there, because people are going to entrust their children in the care of you ultimately.
right.
People
So
went
that's
to
a
Trump.
different. That's
Yeah, but
that's a
people
that's a.
went.
That,
People went to Trump University.
and I'm not saying, but I'm not saying they should have. I'm just saying
No,
that,
no, yeah.
I'm not
Let's
saying
not.
they should have. I'm
Yeah,
just
no,
saying, like,
let's
that's
not take
different.
away from what Ryo's saying, because, like, look,
Yeah.
I got it. I have a. Now, from my understanding, his school is for boys, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
I think
It was a boarding school. It was a boarding school.
It was a boarding school.
Boarding
Yeah.
school. Okay. I'll tell you right now, that the way he conducts, and I'm just this is speaking as a parent, as a parent. I have a daughter, but let's just say she was my son.
Mhm.
As a parent, I would have a hard time sending my son to him,
Mhm.
given the way he conducts himself in social media.
I-
I'm speaking from a parental standpoint, and I understand the selling point, what GC is talking about, and Mike, and I'm taking your point on what you're saying, that prior up until a certain point, this isn't what you got from him.
No, what I'm saying
Okay,
is
well,
there's already people that were lined up to send their kids to his school. So that's why I'm saying you have to separate the social media aspect. It wasn't that he didn't have people willing to go to his school. There were people already willing to go,
Yeah.
despite the fact that they were trying to take him down on Roland Martin. We're trying to question the
Well, that's
legitimacy of his
we know what
PhD.
that's about, right?
Yeah, we
And
know
I'm
what that's
not-
about. That's
I'm not
different.
gonna take away from that.
So
Right.
I'm saying, there was already people lined up. It wasn't so much that he, didn't have the people or the students or the faculty and stuff like that. That stuff was already lined up. But to run a school in the way that he wants to run it, that was going to cost millions of dollars to run, and that wasn't going to come at no cheap expense.
Yes.
Yeah, I wish that we as Black people, particularly Black men, didn't always. It seemed like every time, whether it's Marcus Garvey or Elijah Muhammad or something, there's always a divisive factor. There's always a separate faction who, instead of for just something, Marcus Garvey, I don't want to go, to Libya. I don't want to take that journey with you, which
You
would
mean
be
Liberia.
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 Thank you. West, not north. Thank you. But I don't want to take that journey to Liberia. Thank you, but no thank you. But for whatever reason, I noticed that amongst Black people, we tend to, not only do I want to not join your organization or your movement or what have you, I want to see to it that no one else does. And I want to try to assure that your movement does not get the support that it needs to continue. I don't know why we do that. Like, if you don't like something, just don't like it and move on. Like,
Agree.
but we like with Omar, like we can't just something. I never send my son to that school, but there are those who do. And
But no, but GC, me saying that would be a form of me, right, expressing whatever disagreement or indifference that I have, and then moving right along, right?
Well, but you're saying it on a public platform, so it's a little bit deeper than that.
Well, I'm saying it's a
well, no,
vis-a-vis.
I get you, but I mean, by saying it on a public platform, you're discouraging others who might have considered sending their son.
Well, okay. Well, allow me to disclaim, right? Don't take my own personal opinions of what it is that I would do with my child as any sort of indication as to what you should do for your child. If you so choose to want to send your child, you get what I'm saying? I will happily give
Platforms
that
like this.
disclaimer.
Well, I get what you're saying, but platforms like this influence whether you want them to or not. There are people who did not see Umar in that particular light, and now they do, and now they're reluctant to send their sons there. And
What is that?
Me personally, I'm going off of what I saw from him.
Right.
No,
that's
I get
what
it.
I'm not going off of
I get
anything
it.
that anybody said, because I appreciate the aspect of the child psychology aspect. That's a very powerful piece that he brings to the table. So I'm wholeheartedly in support of that. Anybody that knows me know I'm heavy on the psychology type stuff. So I'm really I take nothing away from him on that.
Mhm.
But I'm saying when it comes to an institution, for example, let's say you change the institution and you change it from a school to a bank. Are you putting your money in his bank?
Oh
See, that's
shit.
different. It's different when it comes to an institution because institutions have to have standards. And that means that the people that are heading the institution have to represent and demonstrate that standard that make people so people can trust, because trust is a major part of it, because you're trying to convince consumers or potential consumers that they can trust putting their children in your environment that you're creating. And if you're out here on some PhD gangster type stuff, that's not sending a message.
I don't
Especially
know
when you
if
got
that,
especially when you have people are coming from these environments where they already see that kind of mess. They do not want to send their children in an environment, even though you might behind closed doors, you cool, but your public persona is selling something different.
but
That's
that's
all
my
I'm saying.
that's
Okay,
that's
but
that's my argument that there are already children lined up to go to his school.
well,
I'm
I
not
mean,
saying. Hold on. I'm not saying.
we
Hold on. Game changer. I'm not saying that they're not children lined up. I'm saying there are also children who are not.
Yeah, but
That's
that's
what I'm saying.
irrelevant though. If they're not interested, they're not interested. We're
Yeah, that's
only
all. That's all.
focused.
That's all
The
I'm
only
saying.
focus. The only focus should be on the ones that are interested. And if
Well,
they already
okay,
made that
but
decision, then that's all. That's already set in stone. Then.
but Mike, there's a difference between people who have their kids lined up to go to the school, right? But at the same time, he doesn't have the capital to get the school together to accommodate the kids, right?
Well, because it's a
And-
massive. It's a capital. It's a capital rich.
right. And so what Rael and I are getting at is that I think, and this is just my opinion, and I think he shares the same opinion, how he conducts himself in social media has largely handicapped his ability to acquire that capital to then accommodate that line of kids that want to go to that school and the parents that would pay. Because see, what the parents can't do is pay him right now and then the kids go to school because the school's not ready. He needs the capital.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay,
But how
so-
he gets out here and projects himself oftentimes, in my opinion, and I think Rael shares the same opinion, actually prevents him from acquiring the capital to
Yeah.
getting the school set up to such a degree where he could then intake students and then receive tuition.
Yeah, but the
Okay.
the lack of capital wasn't because of social media. It was happening before the social media.
Mike, he admitted
No,
that he.
we
did-
okay.
Hold on, Mike.
Let's agree. We already went on, Ryan. Let me just say
Gabe,
this.
hold on,
Let's agree on. Let's agree on two major points.
Just let Rael get out. Go
Hold
ahead.
on.
All right.
He readily admitted when it came to the conscious stripper situation, he had money from NBA players lined up, ready
That's
to
what I
give him
heard.
money. That's what I'm trying to tell y'all.
I mean,
He
that
said
he-
it himself. He said this himself, and when that situation broke, they pulled back. They pulled back. So that his public persona did affect him being able to get capital. That's a fact. That's a
The
fact. He
capital,
said it.
capital from them, not from anybody else. Capital from
I
them.
didn't, Mike. I'm not saying from other people. I'm saying when you get, if you got LeBron James and you got Russell Westbrook and you got these types of people who are not only willing to give you money but put their children in your school, then you're talking about a whole different game. But
They're gonna pull that
if you
money
lose
if bullshit.
that, right? If you lose that, man, you losing that you can use that for marketing purposes. Man, LeBron James, man, he going to Umar school. His son, man, they going to Umar instead of going to Sierra Canyon. Man, they going to Umar school,
right?
You know what I'm saying? That's marketing. Now you're talking about different kind of marketing. Go ahead, game changer.
Okay, so we all know that he's a very flawed individual. And I'm one of the first to
Well,
say
you don't
that.
want to call him that. I'm not calling him that. I'm just
Everyone's flawed. And you know,
we just want to call him a flawed individual, though, man. You know,
I don't. Okay, well, so I'm calling him a flawed individual.
Okay.
As I have before. But if we can agree that the children who are in a school are probably better off there than where they are before, where they were receiving their education before, that is a step in the right direction. And I think that should be the greater purpose. You see, I don't think people realize the power of individual influence. That's how we found ourselves in the negative situations that we have thus far. And that's because individual influence spreads to another and another and another, and then you lose traction. If you open up a barbecue spot and somebody just walks out, and instead of saying, something, I didn't like the taste of that barbecue, I'm never going back again, that's one thing. You lost a customer. But if he walks out of the shop and says, hey, this tastes like crap, and then he sits on the ground in front of the shop and continues to say that to each and every single person that walks in for whatever crazy reason, then your shop is in danger of going out of business, even though it probably has decent enough barbecue. We do that far too often to each other in the Black community. I mean, like Martin Luther King had an affair. Fortunately, the people who backed him were backing more so the cause than his particular actions. And they simply put, of course, he lost some support, no doubt. And there were people who say, just like you, he's a preacher and he should hold himself to a higher standard, and
Right.
which I agree. However, his movement was more important than that, and the people still continue to follow him and support him. So that is a fortunate thing. Here's the thing. We're critical of each other to a fault. We as Black people, extraordinarily critical, to where we question everything, and we question other Black men more than anything, which is why we can never really get anything going.
Well, you want my honest opinion on that?
Sure.
Okay. Here's what I think. What I think it is that Black men don't want to fall in line with those that are more competent than them.
No, I think that
no. This is what I think. I think that there's intrinsically there's an issue with Black men following other Black men that they perceive, right, to be beneath them, when in all actuality, said Black men are more competent than them. And so when those don't want to fall in line with those who have a higher intelligence or a higher competency than them, then that's what causes what you're talking about.
I agree.
Exactly.
I agree.
Exactly.
I mean, there's a lot going on. Tom Burrell writes about it with the mindset that leads us to that. But basically, because there's no understood hierarchy amongst Black men, every other Black man, we're all essentially equal. We're all essentially exactly the same. Even if you're in the forest with a Navy SEAL, you're like, hey, I think I know which way I'm going. Like we do have that mentality. Like, you're a Black man, I'm a Black man. What makes you think you know better than me?
Thank you.
Right.
It really holds us back from progress, and I do wish that we work better on that. We need to support brothers instead of looking for their flaws and excuses for not to support them.
Because when you because when you look at it from like us, like when we're in the back chat, like when we're talking amongst each other, we're on the phone, like we're talking about how we can support each other's business endeavors. We're not hating on anything.
Big time.
You know what I'm saying? We was chopping it up yesterday trying to figure out how to make certain moves, man. And we were coming to some really great ideas. So, people have to learn there's a difference between just being just criticized, because Black people can just criticize just for the sake of criticizing, and actually receiving constructive criticism.
Absolutely.
And so constructive criticism is just that. It's not there to destroy you. It's trying to help build a better you.
Yes.
So when somebody like him, for example, because he doesn't know everything, just like I don't, you know what I'm saying? Just like nobody else on this panel does. So if you got people who were actually in the conscious community, for example, who was trying to say, hey man, why don't you do it this way? And he was reacting in a very acerbic way, and that's in the conscious community. So it's like, well, man, you might disagree with this dude, what he said, but man, did you have to say that to him like that, like and respond like that to him? It wasn't like he was coming at you like he was dumb. He was just saying like, maybe won't you take this money, put it in some, this insurance type thing, let it grow, and then you'll have the money. I saw people doing that to him, and he was reacting very hostile. So again, it's the persona. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't separate the two. Unfortunately,
no, absolutely.
In the mind of humans, like I said before, like I really do love the stuff that he's done on the child psychology. I think he's been very brilliant when it comes to that, and I will never take anything away from him on that. But we can't allow ourselves to be so desperate to see Black men do well. We look the bad shit to be like, okay, we don't want to see that, because that can fester into something bigger long term. So we have to hold, if we're gonna hold the white man to this a high standard, Black men hold each other to that same standard, because we're capable of achieving that standard. We're capable of achieving a high standard.
Get it, but I mean, to publicly undermine someone is not constructive criticism, because it's very complex. Right? Yes, if it's done on a public platform, it's exactly that. Okay, for example, if we're in a meeting or something like that, a group of us, and I'm speaking from real life, but it's minus the race thing, and somebody said, probably just like a slip or whatever, but it was really not that important, like the Pacific Ocean, they said that. Yeah, exactly. It's funny. Some people caught it.
Because you hear that shit all the time, dude. Like.
Yeah, it happens. It's one of those things that happens. And if somebody else wanted to, and somebody did, it's like, wow, I caught it too. But was that really necessary to just say, just to say it the way he did? Like, like the Pacific Ocean is specifically Pacific, is how he just, busted the guy out in the meeting. So it's like, what did you gain from that but to diminish him in the eyes of his peers, and underlings? Like, we really should avoid doing that whenever we get the opportunity. I was in the car with a brother. It was me, him, and a white dude. And he said cognitive when he meant cognizant. I don't think the white dude caught it, but I wasn't going to highlight it. I was just going to, if I feel the need to correct them, I will do so privately. That way it's constructive.
Well, you gotta take into consideration that this is a gentleman who has no problem going in public and going hard against other people. So I mean, at the end of the day, like, if you're saying that about other people as it relates to something he's doing, then he has to practice the same thing when it comes to other people and what they're doing. Because I mean, recently, Complex just brought it up, the fact that, he called the police on Q Butter. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, again, like, I think he's just the wrong person just to really, you know what I'm saying, to kind of hang this kind of approach on, because he's not competent. I'm not saying he's not competent enough.
He has
to do
the
it.
Credentials.
I'm saying his approach.
Yes,
it makes him look
incompetent.
That's what I'm
saying. He's got the goddamn he's got the credentials.
I'm saying that particular constructive criticism is probably best said to him privately, or to his kind privately, or suggested to him through private means, because outside of that, you're making him look like a buffoon.
Would you agree that somebody or a few people have probably approached him, like, out, right, non-social media, like out in the open, just said, hey bro, like, you could probably benefit from, what I'm saying, like, do you honestly think that he has not been told these things?
No, that's likely very true. I mean, and then right. But guess what? Being aware of that, but right quick, Complex. But being aware of that, then I would let him self-destruct.
Well, and that's what we're doing. But what we're doing is we're literally just
aiding in the destruction, as opposed to self-destruct.
No. Okay, because at the point where GC, at the point where you say,
let's go back to the barbecue.
But wait, hold on.
I actually need to shut this down. Yeah. Yeah, so just get your last comments. Yeah, just get your last comment in.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get GC Raw. Y'all want to get your last comments in?
Go ahead, GC. He was trying to say something. I'll let him go.
Okay, so if we go back to the barber shop, or excuse me, the barbecue shop, listen, yeah, you can go off the logic that that somebody has probably already told him that his recipe needs work. Somebody, maybe many people told him that. It's like, okay, I would just simply say he's probably going to go out of business. I can either help him privately and join the people who's already told him, or I could just mind my own business. The worst thing I could do to this particular brother would be to once again state publicly, in the largest platform I can get, that that his barbecue tastes like crap. That would be the worst thing. It would be the worst thing to do, to Yelp him in a highly negative way. So I like to see brothers do that, do less of that, and also understand this. I'm not really a friend of Dr. Umar Johnson, and that's because I speak of the gynocracy, and I feel that he's a gynocrat. So the gloves are off for me.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
but his educational piece, that's something that the two of you are concerned with, more so. And I'm like, you know I have my reasons for taking him down. His belief system is in a direct contradiction to mine.
I
So
already know why, GC. We talked about it on a live stream on yours like a couple of years ago.
yeah, exactly. So
The
we all know it. That's
educational program that you were involved in, right?
Yeah,
That whole
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, it's yeah. So things like that. But
Right, right.
I mean, nevertheless, I would hope that brothers like do less tearing down other brothers, whatever they're trying to build, just because they don't like it for whatever reason, or they don't find that it's for them. I would like to see a lot less of that, from all brothers. I do not attack somebody whose agenda does not conflict with mine, even if I don't agree with it. I don't. I prefer Marvel over DC, but I don't attack the DC channels and stuff like that.
Right.
I don't watch football, but I don't try to discourage others from doing so. Like, just step aside. Don't eat the barbecue. I wish we would do that. I wish Malcolm X would be like, something? Elijah Muhammad he's on some polygamy stuff. I'm going to just do my own thing. But nah, he had to go public and just try to destroy the whole nation.
Well, that was a whole other scenario, bro.
It really wasn't.
A whole different. Yes,
It
it was.
really wasn't. It really
yes,
wasn't.
it was. Yes, it was.
I mean,
was.
Closing thoughts?
these are the last thoughts.
Okay.
These are the last thoughts. So I don't want to digress.
No. My bad for bringing that up.
Let me say this. I read an article by, ironically, by a black woman, and it was an article that was actually centered around constructive criticism. And a lot of times, black people take constructive criticism as hating on somebody, and
It is.
and well, no, it's not. Constructive criticism, people actually need to read the word for what it says. It's constructive. Like, people don't understand the actual term. And so you're saying that he's supposed to get this kind of treatment. I mean, this is the same guy who has literally gone public against people he doesn't get along with, and has literally called them white for not being dark-skinned black people. Okay, so he's questioning the authenticity of black people's blackness, of men who he disagreed with, by basically calling them a white boy. You know what I'm saying? So, with all due respect, like, I'm not going to give it to him like that. That's just me. What I'm saying is that when it comes to something like this in particular, when it comes to a school, because I've looked up research, I've done research on what it takes to formulate a school and all these types of things. And when you're talking about, we've seen a lot of instances out here where people have really done harm to children in schools. And when you're talking about being a caretaker of children, when you get attached to a situation like a conjured stripper, for example, people are going to be like, do I really want to put my kid in that school? Like, does he have the right to do it? Absolutely. But when you're trying to get funding for something like that, you, especially as a black man, you are trying to mitigate any type of things that can bring a controversy to something like that, because all it takes is a little bit of controversy, and you can lose out on people who are really believing in your mission. There are people who will believe in your mission, and something comes by and they be like, I love what you're doing, but I can't do it because you got this attached to you. This happens in business all the time to people. This happens, and he's no different. When he's coming to the public, to the public saying, entrust your children to me, then that means he has all his I's dotted, his T's crossed, and he's ready to go. Anything other than that, like you can't give him a free pass because you want to see a black man do something that you consider great. We have to hold them to a certain standard, and I'm saying that for myself as well. Like, I'm not gonna put out a shoddy product out here and try to sell it to somebody and take their hard-earned money. I'm not gonna do that to people. And so, you know, at the end of the day, like, this is not about tearing him down. Like, that's not what it's about. He is going public with a product. It's no different than a customer going on Amazon saying, man, this product sucks. Why? Because Amazon gave the public the platform to offer constructive criticism to their business model, which helped them improve their business model, and which is why they're successful today, because they were willing to listen to the criticism, the constructive criticism, because this was coming straight from their customers, and they wanted to make sure, how can they make their model more efficient, so their product, so their customers will be satisfied and keep coming back. That's the whole point. Make your product efficient so people will want to keep coming, so you can be successful in what you're doing. That's all I was saying, and I'm done with that.
All right. Well, I'll say this. We'll go ahead and, you know, we're going to be sparking these up so we can continue the conversation, and, you know, the forms that it permeates, from live stream to live stream. So we can go ahead. That's my final thought on it, right? Because we're always here to chop it up on this level, and I appreciate UGC, Rael, Mike V for having this dialogue. Because if anything, what I appreciate most is different viewpoints. And for those of y'all listening in, you can see that we can have different viewpoints, and we can stake our positions and do this in a civil manner. That's the most important part of this whole exchange that we just had here. So that's my final thought. Go ahead, Mike. You can go ahead and shut it down, bro.
Yeah, thank you all for joining us. Please hit the like button on your way out and hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust.
All right. Peace, y'all.